If we can call the meeting to order.
Yes. Notice of this meeting was given to all board members and associates in a meeting notice dated February 14th, 2025. Furthermore, on that date, a copy of such notice was sent to the Times, the Trentonian, and the Clerk of the Township of Hamilton. It was also posted on the bulletin board at the entrance to the boardroom in the Hamilton Square Administrative Building. Please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Atwood, roll call.
Yes. Dr. Farrar?
Here.
Ms. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Kanka?
Here.
Dr. McSheen? Ms. Soto?
Here.
Ms. Stanton?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Here.
Byrne?
She will not be here this evening.
Ms. Thornton?
Here.
We have a quorum.
So at this time, I'm actually going to move around the agenda. We have some very special guests here this evening, so I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Rocco to introduce our honored guests.
Thank you very much. We are very excited to have students from Cooser Elementary School here today, and they were warming up just a couple of minutes ago. Senora Peak, do you want to do an introduction of your students and staff that are here? There she is.
and their excitement tonight. So thank you, Ms. Answini, for all that you do.
Thank you.
So we're going to start with, I'm going to ask you to stand again. Our orchestra is going to play the Star Spangled Banner.
Hold on just 1 second before we begin. The board's going to come down to sit up front there.
Mr. Lagana speak and introduce our Cruiser Cat News. And I will let the students take the stage because this night is really about them, our teachers, and how they make Cruiser the very best and most special place to be. So thank you.
Hello. Ooh, it works. Okay. My name is Mr. Lagana. I'm a teacher at Cruiser Elementary. I actually have some of the students up here that we're playing, are some of my students. Last year, our school started Cruiser Cat News as a way to engage all of our students, no matter their culture, no matter their background. And so today, we're going to do a mini presentation of what we do every day. So we're going to show off. In our school, every day we show off what's most important, right? Whether we have recess that day, what the lunch is, and that's, some more things, but that's the main point. And today we have our three amazing presenters that are going to give you a demonstration of what we do. Hey, so Mason, Shayla, and Irvinson, you want to take it away?
Hello, my name is Mason, and I'm a fifth grader at Cruiser Elementary School. If you don't already know, Cruiser is a beautiful, diverse community. At Cruiser, we want all our students to be valued and respected. We do this through our Cruiser Cat News, a student-led daily broadcast in our three main languages, English, Spanish, and Creole. This is very important to our school because we want all of our students to be informed and feel part of our community. We have a quick presentation to share with you about our Cruiser Cat News in action. Thank you for your time and allowing us to share how we value our community.
Hola, mi nombre es Sheila y estoy en quinto grado en la escuela primaria de Cúser. Si aún no lo sabes, Cúser es una comunidad hermosa y diversa. En Cúser queremos que todos los estudiantes sean valorados y respetados. Lo hacemos a través de Cúser Cat News, una transmisión diaria dirigida por estudiantes en nuestros tres idiomas principales, inglés, español y crayol. Esto es muy importante para nuestra escuela, porque queremos que todos nuestros estudiantes estén informados y se sientan parte de nuestra comunidad. Tenemos una presentación rápida para compartir y mostrarles Cruiser Cats en acción. Gracias por su tiempo y permitirnos compartir cómo valoramos a nuestra comunidad.
Bonjour, mon nom c'est Irvinson et moi c'est un élève classe 5e année dans Cruiser Elementary School. Si vous pas déjà connaissez, Cruiser c'est une belle communauté diverse. Dans Cruiser, nous voulons pour tout élève gagner valeur et respecter. Nous faisons ça à travers Cruiser 4 nouvelles nous en émission chaque jour élève dirigé dans trois langues principales de anglais, espagnol et créole. C'est important en pile pour l'école nous parce que nouvelles tout élèves nous informés et puis yo senti faire partie de la communauté nous. Nous gagnons une présentation rapide pour partager pour montrer Cruiser Cats nous action. Merci pour temps ou pour permettre nous partager façon nous apprécier communauté nous.
We'll do it twice in English, okay? Then twice in Spanish, the sign language, and then twice in Creole, okay?
Every morning we broadcast the live Cruiser Cat News, giving kids the opportunity to be seen and heard. We get to broadcast in 3 different languages, French Creole, Spanish, and English.
Every homeroom is tuned into the news every morning, so it's broadcast to all of the smart boards in all of the homerooms from K to 5. Every 5th grade student has an opportunity to broadcast the news in whatever language is their first or comfortable language to speak.
All the 5th grade do the Kuzukat news. And everybody gets to choose a language and they read it and say it, and then other class watch. We do it every day as like an introduction for the day. I was speaking Spanish. My mom and my dad were actually born in Guatemala, so yeah. My dad knows a little bit of English. He learns from work, and I know Spanish since I was little.
For kids to feel comfortable in their own school, they need to hear their own languages. They need to hear what they hear at home. So, to bring that to the kids, that's really cool. And that was Senora. Like, she wanted it in all 3 languages. She wanted to make sure we got to every kid. And that is really special.
We got some computers set up and the monitor for teleprompter so that the kids can come in and read the news. Every day something new pops up, so we got to work around it. And then trying to manage the broadcast and make sure that what's playing on the computer plays on the screen and the kids are lined up and everything. It's a little juggling act.
Hard to say.
It is hard to say, but we're representing all of our students, right? If we make a slight mistake in the pronunciation, is anybody going to be upset?
We come in the morning and the script's written for us. Senora literally writes it every single day. I don't know how she does all the things she does in one day, but she writes a script for us every day, so we don't have to worry about that. We just double check things like some teachers, we don't have them on as absent. We make sure they get out absent. We come in and we just start setting up laptops in the smart board so they can read off the smart board because it's big, and then 1 laptop to record and 1 laptop to control and scroll. And then we put up a screen behind them, and the kids sit at the desk in front, and then they read right off the prompt in front of them.
We do like basically the same thing. There's some birthdays, there's teachers out, all that other kind of stuff. But my favorite part is when I say breaking news.
Today's hot lunch is... El almuerzo caliente de hoy es... Manger midi choses yasin.
The hot lunch is baked barbecue chicken with mashed sweet potatoes. Ooh, that's gonna be sweet and spicy.
The visual aspect of it, for sure, helps a lot, allowing the kids to be able to see their fellow students, read the news, see that they can do it.
Good morning.
Buenos días. Bonjour.
The news is done in English, Spanish, and French Creole. Those are the 3 languages that are most commonly spoken at our school.
I think like 2 students in our class that never, well, they do speak a little English, but they mostly speak Spanish. So it'd be good for other people who could speak the language on Kuzukat News, so they feel like they can actually listen, tune in on it.
We were together the first time someone read Spanish over the intercom ever at Kuzer Elementary, and one of our Spanish-speaking students was in the room with us, and the look on his face was it was priceless.
The kids love it. I usually see kids right after this, and they enjoy getting to know what's going on. Yeah, and their reactions are overall very, very positive.
I pledge to be a peaceful person. I pledge to be peaceful in my school, with my family, my neighborhood, and my community.
It's fun, and you can, other people is watching it in the school, and they can see you doing your language, and they can be when they do, if they stay in the school and be 5th grade, they can do their language too.
I hope everyone feels comfortable when they come in the morning, welcoming them into school with a happy smile and a happy attitude. I feel like the news does that for them. You know what I mean? Like they always get to see someone they know delivering the news to them, and they get to hear it in any language. So I think it's just really special, and it helps us form that like community and culture that we want in our school, to know that this is a family.
It's really nice because we get to start the day as a school community together, and our you know, our oldest students get to have a pretty big responsibility, and it's something that's really motivating for them to get to school. And it helps with communication as well. It gets, you know, important information out to the students, to the staff, and it just keeps everybody on the same page. So it's just a nice way to start the day.
Take a minute to thank our Cruiser Cats, our musicians. You are absolutely incredible. Like every talent, it takes a lot of practice, and you clearly have been practicing. But keep practicing. What you didn't see while you were playing was how proud your families are, because they were holding their phones up and taping you. So wonderful job. To our broadcasters, outstanding job. Really great work that you're doing, and I want all of you, from your broadcasters to your musicians, to keep doing what you're doing. Thank you to Ms. Keith and to the staff who came here. You guys are all doing a great job at Cruiser. Thank you for coming. I know they want to take a picture of all the students in the hallway, so students, you're welcome to go to get your picture taken, and parents, you can meet them outside. We're going to
You want them to
back to the
leave
stage
or take them with them?
for ceremony for our ATF association.
Careful walking out. And whose music is this? Great job. And you all look good in red. Good job.
Oh, am I? Oh, is that not? Oh, that's not me. Who am I? 3 kids and a job. I know how are you?
Fine. Fine. Are you fine?
Well, you ready for when I don't go on social media, I am fine, and then I make a mistake.
At like 1 a.m. in the morning.
Hey, I think I'm in your seat. Let me move there.
His friend.
I didn't realize.
Jason Margello, and you know how you're alphabetically set.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I think I'm in the wrong spot.
You Starkey on the internet?
Nice.
And he's like the opposite. Can't tell.
So I woke up this morning and picked up my phone, and there were like 37 texts. I'm like, what the heck were they all talking about last night?
Not even anything. I did one and then I. It wasn't. Yeah.
How are you?
Well, May is so funny when my phone was up there.
It's my mom. She got
It's awesome. It must be.
apparently. I don't know.
Got them all?
Okay. So our next awards today are AGF awards, and they are student grants and staff grants. And I want to thank you for always making helpful in a number of staff members. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it
Oh, thank you. Probably don't need it, but thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dana Herrera, and I'm here as a trustee of the Hamilton Educational Foundation.
Rich Kanka, Board Liaison for the HEF.
We are here to present our grant recipients for this part of the 2025-2026 school year. When I call your name, if you can please come up, and if you wouldn't mind waiting up here for a photo at the end. We would appreciate it. The first person we'd like to honor is Meredith Matthews from Grace Middle School for her garden club. Okay. Sure. The next person we'd like to honor is Christine Geck from Crockett Middle School for her Making Crockett Green grant. We'd like to honor Georgia Reed from Crockett Middle School for showcasing her music students. We'd like to honor Christina Viscarella Lopez from Reynolds Middle School for flexible seating in science. We'd like to honor Crystal Skinner from Grace Middle School for her community closet. Mrs. Lauren Riome was not available to be with us this evening. She is from Reynolds Middle School and received a grant for task-oriented sensory integrated classroom. We'd like to honor Evan Price from Grace Middle School for his Greetings from Hamilton mural. We'd like to honor Jess Eichhorn from Grace Middle School for her Enhancing Math Engagement. And we'd like to honor Elisa Weinberger-Liu from Crockett Middle School for Making Crockett Green. All right, thank you so much, everybody. And congratulations, teachers. If we could just take a photo. Wonderful.
Okay, all right. I just want to thank you again for supporting our congratulations on your grants and look forward to great success.
Thank you. And if there are any administrators that can join us for the picture, we'd appreciate it. All right. Yeah, sure. Do you have a moment? Okay.
No, I have Wilson, Bistart, and Clark. I had Kuzer last year.
Thank you, everyone. So at this time, I'm going to ask if I can have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved. Second.
Aye. Whereas NJSA 10:4-13 requires adoption of the board to go into executive session, be it resolved that the board pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, New Jersey, Title 18A, and the Hamilton Township Board of Education Bylaw Number 0166, hereby enter executive session to discuss a matter involving student matters, human resource matters, and matters falling under the attorney-client privilege. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this executive session shall be made public following formal action by the board and/or at the conclusion of any investigation, due process proceeding, or litigation, so long as not prohibited by law and so long as the need for maintaining confidentiality no longer exists.
What was motion A?
so patient. We're going to call the meeting back to order. I'm going to, again, move the agenda around just a little bit. We do have 2 presentations this evening, but I'm going to ask if our student representatives, I'm going to have them give their reports now, and we will start with Lanai Odom from Nottingham.
Hello, everyone. So, to start off, last night was a successful senior citizen night where Nottingham showcased our play Little Shop of Horrors. The tickets are going to be $10. Opening night is, I believe, tomorrow, and it goes all the way through Saturday. It was very successful. It's a very nice play. I got to watch it myself behind the scenes, and it's just very beautiful to see all of my classmates work that hard. Just remember, do not feed the plant. HOSA did a Valentine's Day carnation sale. Student government did a Crush for My Crush soda sale. I know it's a lot of crush. Nottingham won Mercer County's Consumer Bowl, and they're going to regionals April 9th. And looking ahead, junior prom is next month on the 28th. Senior prom is on the 25th of April. And March 9th, HOSA will be doing a National Cereal Day food drive. So students are encouraged to bring cereal in to go to a corporation. Yeah, that's all I have for February.
Thank you so much. And now Gino Di Natale from Steiner.
Good evening, everyone. So at Steiner in February, we just finished up our school musical, A Chorus Line. Great job to the cast and crew for putting on such a great production. I had so much fun watching it all 4 nights. Such a great show. Our Black Student Union put on their Black History Month Assembly just yesterday. It was very nicely done, again, a very well production. Kiar's production put on their Black History Month Assembly in the beginning of the month, was again, also very good to watch as well. Our 8th grade open house is tomorrow, so peer leaders will be present, guiding 8th graders around the school, touring them, as well as the choir will be there singing to 8th graders as they pass by. Our 5 wrestlers are advancing to regionals. Our 1 girl wrestler, Ella Johnson, is advancing to state championship. The girls basketball qualified for a state tournament, which they played, I think, already tonight. The Smartones competed at Ramsey High School just in the beginning of the month. Winter Spirit Week is this week, as well as our pep rally, which is Friday. It's our first winter pep rally, which is pretty exciting. Our Steiner Safe Driving campaign is still running. We are advocating students again to be safe in the parking lot, and not just in the parking lot, but also throughout Hamilton as well. And finally, our AP Potential Assembly is Thursday, so students who are AP bound are invited to this assembly to be informed in all the AP courses that they can or will take in the coming years. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And now Cameron Mooney from Hamilton West.
Hello. So West is hosting their musical Something Rotten next week, March 6th, 7th, and 8th at 7 p.m. Tickets are $10. I just came from the show, and it's really fun, so we think you guys should come watch. West just started putting out its nominations for our comedy pageant, Mr. H.H. West, which is a little thing we do where we take a bunch of West seniors, who are boys, and they put on their own little show, their own little acts, and at the end of the night, we have our audience members vote on who they think did the best and who is crowned Mr. H.H. West. We just had a wellness fair for mental health, where we had a bunch of vendors come for anti-suicide, bullying, abuse, and many others to share their organizations and just to encourage students and promote ways to help mental health, because it's something that should be talked about. We also had a top college basketball player, Caleb Joseph, come in and speak about his mental health and just his experience, his background, and what he did to overcome it. And he says that these stories should be shared more often because mental health is a very real thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as always, I always love hearing from our student representatives because we have so many amazing things going on in all 3 of our high schools, and I love showcasing them. So thank you guys very much for bringing a little piece of your schools to us here. So at this time, I think we're going to move on to presentations first, or would you like to do your superintendent's report first? Okay, we're going to do superintendent's report first.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I have to start our report by asking for a moment of silence for Kathy Podgorski, an educational assistant at Sunnybury, who passed away this month. If you would please join me at this time for a moment of silence. Thank you. I know you join me in keeping Kathy's family in your thoughts during this difficult time. The majority of my report tonight will be later in the meeting when I present the macro budget presentation. Each February, we present information on the major focus and drivers of our budget. On March 18th, that is a Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. at Steinert High School, we will have a tentative budget presentation, and on April 30th at Reynolds, we will have our final budget hearing. The school calendar for next year is out and on the agenda for approval. Each year, we post the calendar, and I understand that people get upset about various topics related to the calendar. Please keep in mind a couple of things about the school calendar. We must go to school 180 days between September 1st and June 30th. Teachers have 5 additional professional development days during that time period also. We still have voting in many of our schools, and we do not make that decision to have our schools used as voting locations. I want to be clear that this Board of Education has taken a lot of time under previous administrations at the county level to try and move that. And we will continue to have those conversations moving forward with the new administration at the county level. A survey went out last school year about the calendar when we decided to adjust spring break. We said that with that adjustment, we would try that for 2 years and reevaluate. The calendar that is on for approval this year is year 2 of that adjustment to how spring break occurs. Most of our schools do not have air conditioning, so we want to get out as early as possible in June. There is a committee that develops the calendar, and it is made up of members of our community. They take this responsibility seriously, and they discuss the most effective ways to build a calendar. It is not an easy process, and the committee knows it is impossible to address everyone's wishes or to satisfy everyone's requests. I'd also like to ask that as a community, we're respectful of the diverse cultures and religions that make up Hamilton. Making comments online minimizing one religion over another or one holiday over another is not productive, and quite frankly, it's disrespectful to other Hamiltonians. The committee was very aware of and respectful of the fact that we are a diverse community and discussed that often when it came to developing the calendar. In a few meetings, over a few meetings, I've mentioned that we have a kindergarten committee made up of our kindergarten teachers. This committee is working on issues we have seen with kindergarten students over the last few years. This includes developmental and academic readiness for kindergarten, toileting issues, and behaviors. Numerous trainings, resources, and activities have been put in place this year to assist with the items I just mentioned. We are also building out a summer program for our incoming students next year and other programming to implement in kindergarten. You will also notice that in a number of our community updates, we've listed things families can do to assist us in their children's classroom and learning experience. It's vital that our parents work with our teachers in schools on issues or concerns that have been brought to their attention related to kindergarten readiness. Our facility strategic plan was presented last month, the final report. This report was developed in the open among community members, and any member of the community could participate. I appreciate the comments and questions. We'll be providing additional information as we move forward, but it's important to keep in mind many of the 10 recommendations listed in the report are intertwined with each other. This means that some recommendations need to happen before other recommendations can be planned or occur. This is a long-range plan for our district. It addresses many of the issues and concerns expressed over the years and looks to create an environment for our students' success into the future. The two immediate recommendations we're working on are preschool and addressing the high school pools. As mentioned above, there'll be more information on those items as we move forward. High school families are going to receive an update on block scheduling and the student scheduling process. This week, it'll actually go out from your principals tomorrow, and it'll be included in my community update. And we put a brief video out on our social media feeds today. The community update will go out on Friday. I know it's long. I know it has a lot of information. People tell me that all the time. But I please ask the community, take time to read that document. It has so much information about what's happening in our district, some of the great things that our students are engaged in, some of their achievements academically, extracurricularly, athletically, but it also answers a lot of the questions that parents have about what are we doing? How are we moving forward? What progress are we making as a district? So take a couple of minutes. I know we put a lot in there. I get it. But if you do have the time, please read through the whole document. That will come out on Friday. And finally, it is February. It's a little warmer the last couple of days than it's been for a while, and that is an indication that we have opened registration for Summer Camp 2025. So if you have children that are interested in going to our summer camp, registration is open. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Rocco. So I am actually going to, since we've done the superintendent's report, I'm going to finish up with the Board of Education. If any Board of Education members would like any comments or would like to report out on anything, I'll start with you, Dr. McSheen.
Yeah, so I do have a couple of things. One, I was thankfully invited to take part in the World Read Aloud Day that we did for Hamilton. It was a really fun experience, my second year doing it too, so I know me and some other board members who might want to mention things too, so I don't want to take too much of their thunder. But I got to read some of our family's favorite books, and my child got to watch me read it in her class with her friends as well, so that was kind of fun. And then that so happened to line up with the day that my student was the star of the week, and I also got to drive straight from Park Ave to her school and read to her friends there who just saw me on TV, and I guess they had a bet whether or not I was going to be wearing the same clothes I was. So that was really entertaining to them for some reason, I guess, to see me on TV and such. But I just want to thank the district and thank the school for allowing me to do this, because it really was a bright spot. As someone who works from home and doesn't get to interact with a lot of fun people all the time, unless I'm doing a lot of hard work, and that's not always fun out in the world. It really was a great opportunity for me to just have fun and see my student and see them have fun too. Also, Dr. Rocco, did you mention Tech Night? And I wasn't paying attention. There's Tech Night coming up. Tech Night's coming up April 6th. I think it might be. It might be April 6th. Someone can call me off of that. But I believe it's here at Crockett, right, again? And always an amazing experience. I highly recommend stopping by if you haven't, or if you have before. Just stop by for a little bit. You'll probably end up staying longer than you want.
Jason, it's April 10th.
April 10th, thank you. April 10th. Such a great time for people of all ages. Come see, well, I don't know what exactly is going to be there yet, but I've always had fun. So highly recommend that. Two more things on my list. One more is, as our liaison to the NJSBA, I'm trying to keep on track of all the communications they send out. They always send out a bunch of webinars and everything, and just to kind of inform the community as well as the board members, there's, oh man, I don't want to go through a whole list, but there are free webinars and there's paid trainings, but I think the free webinars really cover a lot. So one coming up on March 18th is the transformative power of career and technical education. So that is at 1 p.m. So you can go to that and then come to a DCR meeting that I'll talk about later, and then come to a budget meeting that we'll be having later, maybe. And one last thing is I just want to, I think this is another side of a comment that Dr. Rocco made. I think, there's a lot of exchange on social media and the internet about Board of Education, school matters. I've seen some things that have not been quite positive, but I've also seen a lot of instances where members in the community are trying to be informational and be actually constructive, and I just really appreciate that. When they are able to answer a question because we addressed it as part of the public meeting, and they're able to point back to something we said, or Dr. Rocco addressed, or something else we decided on, and especially if something is posted on the HTSD website, that they can point back to and answer a question on that that is official and kind of smacks down any rumors or things rampantly kind of get out in the wild. And I think it's just useful to have people in our community who are really trying to be constructive, and I just celebrate it. I just want to thank everyone for that. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McShane. Ms. Soto?
Yes, well, I just wanted to comment on what our student reps had spoke about, but it is now theater season in the schools. And Steinert, I went and saw their most recent production of A Chorus Line, and it was incredible. Now, I am biased, my daughter was in it, but it was, and I saw it 3 times, but I mean, the level of talent amongst these students was just crazy, incredible. I mean, I would have paid much more money to go see it. So I encourage you, if you don't have a child in the schools, if you don't have a child that's involved with the play, it's still just such a fun night out, and it's a great way to support your community, support the school. Go have a date night. It's a great 2 hours. So I look forward to seeing Nottingham's production this week and Crockett's next week and the rest moving forward. Again, just shout out to the cast and crews, the pit crew that does all the music, and of course, all of our teachers and administrators that help put it all together. Phenomenal job. And I also just wanted to comment on the Cooser Cat News that we just saw at the beginning of this meeting. What a wonderful way to start the meeting. I mean, to really celebrate diversity and inclusion and, creating a welcoming environment. I think I am a product of this district, and, if I had something, in elementary school that had my home language over the intercom, I mean, wow, I think it would have impacted me profoundly in a much different way, in a very positive way. So I'm just so happy that these children are feeling seen and being recognized at school. So shout out to Cooser. Wow. Thank you.
That was a cool little documentary too.
That
was a really cool documentary
Yeah.
video. I need to
Yeah.
watch it again. That was so cool.
I have the link.
Dr. Ferrara?
Good evening, everybody. I had forgotten about World Read Aloud Day, and everybody here knows that my parrot Toby always comes with me, and we read a book about a parrot. And I ran into a few kids the next day, and they were like, "Oh, I loved your parrot, and it pooped." And I went, "What? That's what you remember from this presentation, is my parrot pooped?" And they went, "Yeah, it was really cool to see the parrot poop." And I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I didn't need to read the book." But we had a good time. We tried to get Toby to talk, but that was out of the question. So I always enjoy World Read Aloud Day, too. I also had the pleasure of attending 2 Black History Month celebrations, one at Grice and one at Steinert last night. On February 6th, Grice held its annual Martin Luther King celebration, and during the event, the Grice Multiple Disabilities class, which runs the Gladiator Cafe, was awarded the school's Martin Luther King Service Award. There were student musical performances, a guest speaker, and the evening ended with a meal in the cafeteria, we had chicken and waffles. It was really fun because you get to sit with parents and students. And we had a guest appearance by Detective Webb, who came by with his dog Sonny, and they had received the MLK Award last year. Then last night at Steinert, the members of the Black Student Union celebrated Black history through music, dance, poetry, recitations about important people in Black history. The energy and the enthusiasm was contagious. It was so awesome. There was a string quartet orchestra led by, is it Pocolemo? I hope that's how she pronounces her last name. And she and a student cellist played a beautiful rendition of Amazing Grace. The orchestra itself played 2 dance tunes by a composer named Joseph Boulogne Chevalier de Saint George. I never heard of this composer. He was born on the French island of Guadeloupe on Christmas Day in 1745. He was the son of a wealthy French plantation owner, George de Boulogne de Saint George, and his mother was a 17-year-old African slave on the plantation. And at 7, the composer was sent to a boarding school in Paris. He was reportedly not only gifted in music, but also a renowned swordsman. He served as a colonel during the French Revolution, and while he was once an ally of Marie Antoinette, he went against her during the Revolution, and she burned all his music. So he was a virtuoso violinist and a contemporary of Mozart, and his music was beautiful. It was a very, very interesting night. I really enjoyed it, and the kids did a great job.
Thank you, Dr. Farrar. Ms. Stanton?
Yes, hello everyone. I wanted to start by thanking our Cougar Cats that came out. It was beautiful musical performance, as well as their daily news report. That's fantastic. I feel like even for our students that are solely English speakers, the exposure to other languages is amazing now that we're living in a more global environment. I also wanted to thank everyone for World Read Aloud Day, our opportunity to read to the district. I'm looking forward to next week. We have Read Across America, which will be celebrated in all of our elementary schools. And to close, one more reminder, as I did last month, please be cautious and careful outside of our schools at drop-off and pickup times. There's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of buses, and so everyone please be careful and safe, especially as it's getting warmer. We have a lot more children walking and crossing. Please do use the crosswalks as well. And lastly, happy Black History Month. I wanted to end with a quote today. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those that prepare for it today, by Malcolm X. Thank you.
Ms. Harvey?
Thank you. That's a good point about the crosswalks. I just wanted to point out that we now, right here at Crockett, have the no U-turn sign that's up. So I understand that there will be enforcement starting soon, and I know a lot of parents who will be thankful for that because this gets a little crazy over here. Mrs. Soto had mentioned the high school musicals and the middle school musicals, but I just wanted to give the dates so that people can attend. The high school reps had mentioned Little Shop of Horrors at Nottingham this week, Something Rotten, March 6th through the 8th at West, and then Sound of Music is at Reynolds from March 12th to the 15th. Grease right here at Crockett is March 20th through the 22nd, and then Mean Girls Junior from the 27th to the 28th at Grice. And I know Mrs. Soto had talked about the quality of the performances, and every year I'm wowed by them. But just as an aside, I actually took our Girl Scout troop to Broadway in New York, and we waited around to meet Aladdin in Disney's Aladdin. And he was so nice, and he was doing autographs. He said, "Oh, where are you guys from?" And we said, "We're from Hamilton." And guess what? Aladdin on Broadway got his start right here in Hamilton. So you can be seeing a future Broadway star when you come to our shows. So, and then finally, just as a liaison to the PTA President's Committee, I just wanted to thank them for their finishing up their winter wear drive that helped our community. They had it operating in their schools, and then any things that weren't used in a particular school, they are sharing with other schools who might have a greater need. So thank you to the community for donating to that, and thank you to the PTAs for organizing that.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Ms.
Sorry.
Williams?
Ms. Thornton,
Yes,
I
I'm
just
sorry,
wanted
Ms.
to
Soto.
add one more thing. I think I enjoyed the play so much because the audio equipment in Steiner was upgraded over the summer last year. What a tremendous
That's
difference
very
that
nice
made.
Ms. Williams?
So I just want to echo also about the musicals between the middle schools and the high schools. I cannot stress enough that if anybody in the audience or even at home, if you guys do have an opportunity to go see any of them, I can tell you it's like a little snippet of like an off-Broadway play. The talent that our students have, and I have to say kudos to our teachers and all of the staff that help run it and help the students that do it, because the confidence that is exuded in these students when they're up on stage, I mean, it's just, you see like a whole nother world of them. It's a beautiful thing to watch. So if anybody really does have an opportunity to go out and just see one, I think you guys will really be surprised, and it's a wonderful experience. With that, I also want to say for World Read Aloud Day, I was so happy that I participated in that. That was a great opportunity to be able to be in front of the students and to be able to read to them. And, I think the one book that I read two, but the one was, about gratitude and practicing gratitude and just trying to, enforce that and breathe that life into them. So I appreciate that opportunity big time. And kudos to Cooser, because that was a great performance that they put on for us today, and the Cooser Cats. And I think it's such a beautiful to see the diversity. So English, Spanish, and then Creole, right? And the fact that all the students in that school get to hear that and are surrounded, that is the future, right? I mean, like, we have to surround ourselves with really what we're going to be surrounded with, and what we are surrounded with is so many diverse languages and just backgrounds. And so I thought it was beautiful, and kudos to Cooser for putting that together. I really enjoyed that. So, and really, I think that's really it. That's all I had.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Kanka?
Yes, I've been hearing a lot about this, the Gladiator Cafe, and I've had conflicting schedules for years and never been able to actually visit the cafe until just recently. And I ran into Dr. Ferrara, Mrs. Harvey, and it was a really nice experience to go in there and see the kids working, taking your order, taking your money. But we did have one exciting moment. My very first day in the school to Gladiator, I was just sit down on my chair. Dr. Altabello was in there. They had a shelter in place. I never seen the guy move so fast in my life. No wonder he doesn't wear leather shoes. He bolted out of there, and it was just a little misunderstanding, but everything was cleared up. But I really had a good time, and my schedule has eased up a little bit on that Friday, and I was disappointed when the following week was canceled because they received that award. So I did go last week, and I plan on going this Friday until my schedule gets more congested again. It looks like it's going to be freed up for the next 3 or 4 weeks, so I'll be looking forward to going over there. But it was a really, really nice experience. And I would also like to touch on, we all saw the presentation tonight by the Hamilton Education Foundation. They presented the teachers with some grant money, and they also present scholarships to the students. And it's all done, through a group of people that are dedicated to Hamilton Township Public Schools. And I just wanted to let everybody know that they raise money during the year so they can do this type of work for Hamilton Township. And they have a fundraiser coming up on March the 13th at Stone Terrace. And if you go online, all the information is online on what you need to do if you attend to go to the event. But it's a real fun night, and I hope everybody takes the opportunity to go over there, because the money that's raised comes right back to the Hamilton students and the teachers. So that concludes what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Kanka. So I am just going to conclude with one little message. So for our high school students, incoming high school students and current high school students, we are in scheduling season. And I just want to put out that for anyone that might be aware or might not be aware, Hamilton School District has some really amazing opportunities for our high school students for dual enrollment. We do have our dual enrollment page on our website, but just to kind of give you an idea, we have some classes that you can dual enrollment partnership with William Patterson, Fairleigh Dickinson University, Keene University, Thomas Edison State University, Mercer County Community College, and the College of New Jersey. And I just want to highlight the College of New Jersey only for this reason. We started with that last year. So this year right now currently is our first year, and that's all of our AP classes that we are currently running at our high schools are eligible for dual enrollment. So if you have any questions about our dual enrollment, like I said, we do have it on our website, but you could always reach out to your administration at your schools, your guidance counselors, and the curriculum department. It's really great opportunities for our students. So I just wanted to remind everyone just to take a look at it and see if it might be something that you might be interested in. And with that, I'm going to move on to our presentations. I believe we'll start with the MTSS presentation. Is that a screen?
That's going to be, both presentations are going to be a screen, so board members may want to go into the audience.
Okay.
Do you want me to turn this around?
I can get my computer. Well, yeah. That's fine. You're just in there, stand behind me and stuff. If we, it's a shame we can't get the computer. Can I take this off of here?
So, hi everyone. I'm Marta Aldino. I'm the Director of Student Services, and this is Maria Schultz. She's actually our MTSS facilitator for the district. We are going to give you an update. Last year, we did a brief overview on MTSS and what the district is doing and where we were last year, and we're going to give you now a brief update of where we are about a year later. So we're going to just do a quick what MTSS is. MTSS is a multi-tiered systems of support. So New Jersey has officially adopted this system probably about 2 years ago. And what that is that this is a quick, we look at a universal screener that we give 3 times a year. And then we look at those results and we look at them across grade levels. So we don't look at them at each grade or each class. We look at them across each grade level. At the elementary, so at kindergarten, we look at all the kindergarten students, we look at all the first grade students, the second grade students, and so on. Then we look at the students that are identifying on grade level, above grade level, below grade level. We look at what those needs are for our students. So if the students are on grade level, we look at a plan for them. Our students that are above, below, we identify plans for them. And then we analyze them, we come up with plans, and then we evaluate them. We look at the progress, and then we come up with whether we need to have plans that accelerate, plans that remediate, and we determine what the next steps are. So this is why we rolled it out this year. What we talked about last year is that we were working on English language arts at the elementary level. So at all of our 17 elementary schools, we worked on ELA, and this year we rolled out math. And then we also started ELA at our middle schools. We initially had intended on starting that at all 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade at the middle school level, but when we started looking at the data, we decided that we were just going to implement at the 6th grade level starting in September. So this is kind of the map of where we started. As you can see, we've been pretty busy. We've done trainings starting at the end of last year at the middle school, and continuing almost every month. We're in a building working on it. I should say every week, not every month, but between the 17 elementary schools, the 3 middle schools, our teams are working all the time to make sure that our students are continuously meeting. Here's our data so far, which has actually been really, really exciting on the progress that our students have been making. If you remember last year, we looked at the charts of the students that started in the red and then moved over to the greens. This is our progression of reading, which we thought was really important for everyone to look at. In reading, in order for us students to move up in reading, you need to move in a progression, right? So in order to have a foundation, you need to move up on the scale. So you can't read unless you can start at the bottom and first have phonological awareness, then you move to phonics, then you move to high frequency words. So in order for our students to succeed, they need to basically move up the ladder, right? So when we're doing our assessments and we're doing really that universal screener that I talked about in the first slide, you really need to start at the bottom. So those are that assessments that we're looking at. Where do our students fall in that assessment? That's what we're looking at to see where they fall per grade level. And that's what we're determining on where we're going to make our plans. So here's an example of a tier 1 in language arts. And this is a non-title building. So we looked at data from grade 1 going into grade 2. So these are the same students. This is a cohort of students in one of our elementary schools. So if you look at June, that was the end of first grade on an iReady score. That's where they ended in June. And that's where they started in September. So this is awesome scores. Really, really awesome. So if I go back, I'm going to go the other way really quickly. If you look at the end of June, which is that phonological awareness, which is our bottom, that's where they started in tier 1. And then if you look right at phonics, that's the next one up on our ladder that I talked about. And only January, our second time taking the screener, look how much progress they've made only in such a short amount of time. That's huge. When we're talking about progress, we really only would expect them to make about 20% of progress, and our students moved from about 30 to almost 80, 90%. And that's only in that short amount of time. And we're seeing this in almost 17 of our elementary schools. Here's another building. This is one of our titles. This is where they ended in June. They still stayed in that PA though, so they're still in the phonological awareness though in September, and this is where they moved up until January. So a little bit different progress, but still big progress. This is what we want to see. And the reason that we didn't do kindergarten to first grade and we did first grade to second is because we wanted to do the same cohort of students and iReady to iReady. So we wanted to make sure we were taking the same students from the same buildings and the same grade level. So we're really taking a cohort of students to show you the progress that they're making. I'm going to pass this on to Maria to talk about our tier 2 and tier 3 students.
Thank you. Okay, so in MTSS, if a student falls, what we say, outside of tier 1, that means they need another layer of support. So they're working a little bit below where most of the students need support. We would say we're placing them in a tier 2, and that's small group targeted intervention. So right now, in all of our 17 elementary schools, we've had 977 goals implemented. So going back to that phonics example, which the majority of our students are working in that domain, you might have a student with 2 goals because they're working on reading words with a certain skill and then spelling those words. So far since September, we have 977 goals implemented. We have 569 of those goals achieved. So our students that are struggling are making progress towards grade level proficiency. Even though they're working a little bit below, we're still helping them move up towards that standard. Tier 3, if students aren't responding to the tier 1 instruction, and then again, aren't making the expected progress in tier 2, we then meet as a team, we evaluate the data, and we determine whether they need the most intensive support that we could give them. And that would be a tier 3 intervention, where the students are seen more frequently and the type of plan is more tailored to that student's need. There's usually 1 or 2 students in a tier 3 intervention group. So within MTSS, our percentages would be 1 to 3% of a grade level would need a tier 3 support. So we can see that we have 113, but again, that's across 17 elementary schools. 35 of those goals have been achieved. And then in the green, again, MTSS is a very fluid process. We've had students that were in our tiers that are now returning to tier 1, meaning we've helped them achieve where the rest of the grade is working, and now they're back into the classroom receiving their tier 1 support and their regular curriculum instruction. So at the bottom, I said, keep in mind this process is fluid. So what happens is once a goal is achieved, a new one is created. And it doesn't mean that just because they achieve one goal, they come out and go into tier 1. We have to bring them up to the level where everyone else is. So a large percentage of these goals, especially in tier 3 and tier 2, it's because they've met goals and we had to create new ones. Okay, so we started this year in math in the 17 schools. And we're looking at the domains of number and operations, algebra and algebraic thinking, measurement and data, and geometry. Overall, when we were looking at our initial data to start this year off, we realized that most of our students needed support in numbers and operations, which is like basic number sense skills, like how numbers are built, what do they mean, and how do I work with them. So this was a non-title building, and we're kind of showing you the same graph so you can kind of make those connections. In September, we were at about 25% proficiency in that entire domain. So within that domain, there's a bunch of skills that they have to master. And then after in January, we're now at about 45. So again, that's that, what we would expect between cycles would be a nice about a 20% increase is the expectation, and we've exceeded that with our tier 1 plans. Okay. So this is showing us in math, in a non-title building, also, so if we look at the windows, window 1 and window 2 for grade 1, these are the scores of, or the number of students that are either proficient, partially proficient, or not proficient. So you can see from window 1 to window 2, especially in the not proficient column, we're moving students. We went from 10 not proficient to 2. In grade 2, 14 to 0. And obviously you can read the numbers going down. And then also in the proficient column, we're moving students up, right? We're moving students, we had 13 in grade 1 and now 26, 8 and then 23. But something that we're really looking at is the yellow. Those are the students that we call, like, they kind of sit in the middle. So that means they have skills, but we really need to help them apply those skills. So that's where our tier 1 plans are going to target and focus to help move those students on into the green of proficiency. And most of the time, the students that are in the red are the ones that are in that tiered intervention that we were talking about a little bit earlier. So this is in the title building, kind of the same graph that I showed you before. We started the year focusing on numbers and operations, and we were at about 9%, and we went, it looks like about 24%. Huge growth, huge growth. This is the same slide again for the title building, and you can see it pretty much reflects the same thing. Now this building is twice the size of the other, so you're gonna see the numbers look a little bit different. But again, we have a heavy middle, so we really need to target those students in the classroom and figure out what plan can we put into place that's gonna help those students master that skill and move on in this domain. Okay. Okay, so these are our math goals. You're going to see the numbers are much smaller because this is now the first round of implementation. The whole part of MTSS to really strengthen that tier 1 core instruction, bring that up a level so that the students who need more support, we're able to help those students, with those lower level skills. So we have 174 goals that were implemented, 74 were achieved. We didn't have any students in tier 3 because it was our first cycle. So remember what I said, that if they're not responding to tier 1, and then tier 2 isn't moving the student at the rate that we would expect, that's when they are then into a tier 3. So we just concluded this round of data team meetings. There are a few students, since we've done this, that we are having meetings about at this time to determine whether we need to put them into a tier 3 plan, but it is very minimal. And then we have 13 students returning back to tier 1.
And one thing I do want to emphasize is that when students are going into tier 2 and tier 3 parents are involved. Parents are called, parents are part of the plan, and parents are informed that the students are in tier 2 and tier 3 plans. As for SEL, we did start a little later in the game that we planned on this year, so we did plan on starting a little earlier than January, but we did start in January. These are the 6 core skills that the students are working on. We are using a platform called Wayfinder. All students were tested on Wayfinder. We're working with their guidance counselors on this. In their morning meetings every day, the teachers are working on one of the core skills that are focused on through waypoints that had a baseline assessment. We did the same thing that we did with our language arts and our math. Each grade level does have a different focus that's being implemented. So if the grade level is really focused was adaptability, that's what we wrote the plan on. And then when the guidance counselors push in, they're really focusing on the lessons. We decided not to work on the tier 2 and tier 3 plans this year, just because we really felt that the focus really needed to be on tier 1 to get the students really focused on what it looks like to be within their morning meetings. And then next year, we'll really move into the tier 2 and tier 3 plans for SEL. Points that we really thought were important to remember is that when we're looking at MTS, it's never, ever one and done. And a question we keep hearing is, well, if we finish tier 1, is it over? It's never, ever over. It's always, always a fluid cycle. There's always something to work on. We're always looking at those data points, and there's always something for our classroom teachers to be working on within that tier 1 cycle. So it's really, as soon as a student exits tier 2 or tier 3, they're coming back into their general ed classroom and reworking on something tier 1 within the curriculum in their general ed classroom. And this allows us to be proactive with the students so that when they're coming back in the classroom, they're working within their classroom with their general ed peers. And it's a consistent, thorough process that we're continuously reviewing the data at the grade level. So this is for all levels, not just elementary. So I just want to I know we've repeated that a couple of times, that it's not happens and then they go back and then it's over. It's always a tier 1. So if the student's not in tier 2 or tier 3, they're always, always in a tier 1. So it never ends. And again, we started middle school data this year. Here is the beginnings of our middle school. A little bumpier than we thought it would be, to be honest with you. So if you look to the left, this is middle school number 1. Basically, those are the same reading skills that we looked at for our elementary. It is opposite though. So that PA at top, that phonological awareness. If you look though, our middle schools are still struggling with reading. So we are working at vocab actually at all 3 of our middle schools. We started at a 30% proficiency, and when we took our second test in the winter, it was at 36, but it's really about implementation and really looking at how are we implementing our skills once they're at that older age. So going back to the drawing board now and how are we using the skills? So this was one of our middle schools. Here's a second one. So we are seeing growth, which you'll see in one of our next slides when you really see how the numbers have moved, when you see the greens to the yellows and then the reds, which Maria will talk a little bit about. And then here's our third, and then what plans we have in place. Because again, this is our first year doing this at the middle school, just like when we started the elementary school. Our scores didn't initially look as good as they do now. But you'll see some movement when we look at the scores like this, which I'll let Maria talk a little bit about.
So when we saw those scores, of course, we were a little, disappointed and kind of looked farther into the data. And we're like, well, wait. We implemented a plan because we realized our student needed some support with vocab. And the plans that we put in place kind of had an explicit instructional piece where they were working on, it's called morphology, basically breaking words down into parts that have meaning. So the teachers were working really hard at that. The students, it was something new for them. What we realized was that we did move some kids to partially proficient from the red, and some kids moved from yellow to green. But in essence, we learned when we looked at the actual standards within iReady is that they have the skills, we just now need to teach them how to apply those skills. So they understand maybe how to break a word down and find its meaning, but how does that relate to what they're reading? Are they able to use the clues around that word to determine meaning and move forward in the passage or selection with their comprehension? So we looked at the plans and we made changes. We also brought in social studies into the plan so that they can help the students apply those vocabulary skills in their content at the grade level. So we're hoping that the next time around with these adjustments that we made, that we'll see some continual growth. I think we will, but it is the starting point. And we did kind of start in the same essence with elementary. It's a process, it's layered. It takes every single person who works with these students to do their part. It's a lot of training of the teachers. So we're spending a lot of time in the middle schools really kind of help the teachers with these instructional practices, and then also with the interventionists in those buildings. Kind of just talked about this, but it is a very collaborative and systematic approach to reviewing data, adjusting instruction, reviewing best practices, and implementing new strategies, which is exactly what we're doing. Upon completion of each middle school data team, we determined that our students have learned skills, but again, we had them in either not proficient or approaching with the initial plan. We're hoping that the plan we put in place now moves them from either maybe red to yellow and the ones that are in yellow to green. It showed us that, and so what we did was we also included the social studies teachers to help give them more of that practice in their content area. And then we also scheduled progress monitoring assessments at 4-week intervals so that we can check in on the movement from now and the next cycle with the universal screener. Okay, I'm passing it back to.
And then we thought, because we've been full cycle now with elementary, we did reach out to the schools and just said, hey, can you guys share some of the success stories that you thought from your intervention teams? And I'm not gonna read them to you, but I just thought that these are quotes from teachers that we thought were just exciting and, were awesome that they shared. So here's a couple of them. Here's from Morgan. Here's from Wilson. Langtree. Layler. And McGalliard. And these, we just took a couple for examples. And that's it. Any questions? It's really, it's the growth of the 15 students, so they showed where they started and how they've kind of come up for ELA. I know it's really little, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Growth when I ready is where they start and where we expect them to end, and we do want that 100% at the end of the year. So what they're saying is
They've made way more than that. So our title schools do receive, our non-title schools are not free and reduced lunch. Some do, our title schools do not.
So I have a few questions. I'll just go over a couple. Do you see cases where students are performing worse on their second assessment? And is there
Yeah. We've definitely had that, and we've reassessed them. Because we see them on a daily basis too, don't forget. So they're working within the classroom, so their teachers do know them, so we've allowed students to reassess.
I assume it's not very easy for them necessarily, so I just want to see how we're making that progress going.
I think it depends on our teachers too. So each teacher does it a little differently. Our teachers have been amazing. I think the buy-in, to be honest, has been unreal. I think last year or maybe even 2 years ago when we initially piloted our first 3 elementary schools, it was rocky to begin with, but then when we started seeing the overall growth from our first 3 schools, we had other schools literally reaching out to us to say, hey, can we jump in now? Because of what the other teachers started sharing with each other. And then between our MSR teachers, which is our multi-sensory teachers, and our interventionists all kind of communicating with each other because they travel, I think words got around. And it's been really positive. I mean, there's definitely some naysayers. I'm not going to say that. There always are. But the overall support of our teachers has been great. Yeah.
Program, and then we implemented it in our elementary, and now we're moving it to our middle school. I want to thank you and your department and our teachers. This is a wonderful program and a resource to have in our schools. I am impressed with the progress that we're making, and I actually am looking forward to see what our end of the year numbers are going to be. I think they're going to be great, as well as I'm looking forward to being able to implement it further in our middle school. As we saw the numbers, we're struggling a little bit, so I think that, you know, having more resources and support in the middle school will help our students as they move on to high school. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Soto?
So just good question. You know, there's a lot of studies around the positive effects of early intervention, and clearly you're seeing that in this data. And then you went to the middle school data and said, it's been rough. Will we be able to see, like, this time next year, some of those 5th graders and 6th graders to see how they've progressed? Or is there some data to show?
I think that I think eventually we will see that. I think the true impact, I think 3 to 5 years is going to give us really good data, to be honest with you, because this year's second graders, right? First graders have had like the true full everything, to be honest. But I think the 5th graders moving up are going to start to really see the impact. And I will say this, we presented, it was here, actually. Yeah, we did a faculty meeting here, maybe October-ish, and there was just a lot of questions about the time it was taking, getting the students ready to do this. And I guess our position was, it's going to take a little longer in the beginning to get it set up, but just think of what we're getting our students ready for 7th grade, 8th grade, that they'll be ready, but the kids that are coming to you are already familiar with this, right? So we're setting it up now, and it's taking a little longer, but everyone that's coming up, they're gonna have it unless they're a move-in or, new to our district. So I do think we're gonna see an impact. It's just not gonna happen immediately. And I did fail to say that we did start 7th and 8th grade in January. So we just started 7th and 8th grade for ELA. We are not going to implement that in the fall. We are going to continue with elementary just because we only did start tier 1 this year. We're going to hold off on middle school. Like teacher performance, do you mean? No. We don't do that.
We do look at that. I talk with the principals all the time in my monthly meetings, and they're broken out into smaller groups, and we look to see what the achievement is at grade levels and to see what other type of training or support that they need. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
They're in the numbers. Eventually, we will be moving to the high school level. We're planning for block scheduling, and this is part of the plan. Oh, same question? Yeah. Like a specific target skill, do you mean? Yeah, we have done that. If there's a specific skill at a level, yes, we've done that. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
The high school question? Yeah.
We'll obviously going to report out later on when we get results second half of the year, but we're very excited about this. I'd also say that, as I said, I meet with the principals in small groups, and they are speaking to this data too. They're analyzing it, they're reviewing it, they're looking for trends, they're looking for areas that need to be improved. We're going to finance and budget. So, and I think I'm connected now. All right, here we go. So each February, we talk about the macro budget, and we are not talking about specifically what the budget is going to look like in the next 2 months. We're talking about what are the drivers that we need to consider when it comes to building this budget. And if you've ever been to a budget presentation before, whether it's the macro budget, the tentative budget, or the final budget hearing, these slides are going to look very similar. We use the same format year in and year out, so there's consistency, especially with people that come to the meeting so they know what they're looking at. The first thing that we talk about is what is the budget process? And I won't go through all the dates, but as you go through these meetings and you see these presentations in March, February, March, and April, you're going to see the yellow box move. And basically what we're doing is we are tracking the budget process. And the important thing to understand is that we don't start building this in February or March. We go back around December, even a little earlier than that. Ms. Atwood and I talk about the budget all year long. She enjoys those conversations, me not so much. But we really get going in December talking about the budget, how we're going to build this budget, what do we need to do, and then you can see some of the really big indicator dates as we go along. And one of these dates, and when you talk about building a budget, is talking about what is happening in our buildings. And every one of our building principals gets an opportunity to come in and speak with senior staff and myself about what's in their budget. And we talk to them about it. Do you have this? Do you have that? You should move this here. You should make adjustments. And it's for consistency basis. So that happened in the middle of January, and we're right here on January 26th. So the 18th of March, and I said it before in my meeting, and I'll say it again because we meet on Wednesdays, that is a Tuesday. So that meeting will be on a Tuesday. We will have a second board meeting in March that'll just be action items besides the budget. So just want to let you know, Tuesday. So then we will go on, and from the 18th in our tentative budget and get it in approval, we will work, make any adaptations, and get a final budget submission, budget hearing on the 23rd and submission on the 24th of April. So each year when we build out a budget, we have goals, and these goals have been consistent over the last couple of years because we have found that these goals have helped us to be successful as a district. They are not in priority order, but they're up here for you to take a look at. Goal number one is equity, and I want to be very clear about what that means, and I do not want this to be misinterpreted. Equity means not equal. As you just heard from our MTSS presentation, we have students learning at different levels. All of our students need different things. And in order for students to get what they need to be successful, we have to budget in a way to meet student needs. Some students need a little more of math. Some students need a little more of ELA. Some buildings need a little more of a resource. So that is equitable budgeting across the district, getting our buildings and our students and our staff what they need. It's not easy, and it's not always possible to do it at 100%, but it is a conversation that we have as we build the budget. We work on learning acceleration and social emotional learning. You just saw a presentation on all of that. We are working on our New Jersey learning standards. So what do we need to maintain the core programs that the state says we have to run here and the programs that we typically run beyond what the state standards are or minimums are? We've done a lot of work on safety, security, and infrastructure over the last couple of years, and we continue to do that. Our security is a layered security system. And so we continually look to improve the safety and security in our districts, in our district buildings. And then budget stability. What we have tried to do over the 9 years that I've been here is to get away from these big peaks and valleys, meaning this. 1 year putting a lot of stuff in, and then things happen and you have to take a lot of things out. We've tried to be a little even-keeled with a slight uptick on what we're providing, what we are funding, what we're moving forward. This year's budget, there was a lot of talk about the potential of funding either not being there at the state or federal level, and as we've begun to build out our budgets, we have built our budgets with contingency plans based on potential issues that could happen down the road. We still don't know what our state budget numbers are yet. The governor gave his speech yesterday. We expect those numbers probably late tomorrow or as late as Friday, but that will give us a good indicator of are we close to being on the mark of where we thought we would be. But this year, the state also did something it hasn't done in the past before. It actually told us that if anybody is getting reductions, the maximum amount of reduction in state aid would be no more than 3%. And that was actually interesting for us as we moved forward. We are due additional state aid every year. There's a chart on that coming up. But these are our goals as we go forward. So what drives our budget? Well, the first thing that drives our budget is our student population. And over the years, I've shown variations of this chart. Blue is actual. Blue is the actual enrollment of our school district. Red is the first demographic study that we had, and if you've ever come to a budget hearing before, we had the new demographic study done. You would hear me say that that demographic study was way off, and you can tell because the red line goes down and decreases, and the blue line is always increased. So the new demographic study is that yellowish color there, and that says that we should be increasing, and it actually indicates that our population should be slightly higher than it actually is. That's actually, and you look at where the numbers are, the blue versus the yellow, it looks like they are very similar, right? And so they're on the same trajectory as we move forward, which is an indication that in 25-26, we are going to increase in enrollment from where we are right now. So more students indicates that that is a big driver in the budget. If you dig deeper into our students and how many students we have and in what categories, our English language learners, or ELLs, has increased every year as we've tracked them. So going back to 2021, 22, in February of 22, we had 572 ELLs in the district. Fast forward to today, 24-25 school year, in February of 25, we have 1,150 ELLs. And so when we have ELL students in the district, we also have additional instruction and services and materials to meet their academic needs per New Jersey graduation requirements. One of the other drivers that's going to be in our budget now moving forward is our facility strategic plan. I mentioned that in my superintendent's report tonight, and I also mentioned that the 2 items out of the 10 recommendations that we're currently working on and looking to move forward on is the preschool program and the high school pools. So that is part of our build out when we come to the budget each year moving forward. We also need to look at charter schools. So blue is our enrollment and red is the charter school enrollment. And again, the money to pay for charter school students comes out of our budget. You see, we project an increase of right now, conservatively, 9 students for next year, but that means 470 students are charter school students, and we project our enrollment to be about 12,321. Our state aid allocation. So you'll see here 11 years that are grouped together where we had very little, if no increase in state aid, and we call that lost state aid because when you do the calculation, according to the funding formula, we were supposed to get increases to state aid every one of those years. Various reasons why that didn't happen. But over the last couple of years, we actually have gotten increases in state aid, and we are still anticipated, if the formula is run and funded fully, which the governor has said that he is going to do, we anticipate that we should be eligible for increased state aid this year. I think that will be minimal this year, just based on some of the language used by the governor in his speech yesterday, and the fact that they have reduced or identified the reduction maximums as 3% to districts that would be losing state aid. But if you look at the state aid formula and you look at some of the categories that we get state aid in, the state last year said that according to the formula, we were fully funded for transportation when the state provided us $5.2 million in transportation aid. It's important to note, though, the state will give us $5.2 million, but we have to budget $20.48 million to fully run transportation in the district. If you look at special education, the state said they were fully funding us according to the formula at $14.6 million, but our special ed budget is $25 million. And then the state will do a calculation in what they call under adequacy. And so that's a formula in which they tell you how much more you should be budgeting based on the tax levy. And according to the formula last year, it said that we were $30.5 million under adequacy, which means that they're saying that the tax levy should be $30.5 million higher than it is right now. So what other things are driving this budget? What are we looking at when we're building the budget? What are we concerned about? So we are obviously concerned about the potential of losing federal aid, and we are looking at that when it comes to IDEA and ESEA or ESSER funds. We know that we have a projected 25% increase in electric costs. I shut my lights off in my office every time I walk out now after reading that bullet. But you also are getting that at home. We need additional staff to meet increased enrollment. We are looking at the increase in medical and prescription costs as part of our benefits plan for our employees. Our charter school numbers are going up ever so slightly, but that could increase also. Our L population, as I showed you, is increasing. We have anticipated growth in our out-of-district costs. We have spent a lot of time bringing students back into district and developing program here. But even though we've reduced the number of students leaving our district for special ed services, the cost to educate students outside of the district has increased. Transportation renewals are at 3.57% increase this year. Most services and supplies have increased. We have limited space in our buildings with our growth and enrollment, and we need to look at how we are going to build out, and that's part of our facility strategic plan. And we continue to increase resources to address the learning needs of our students. And every year that I've been here, and I know while Mrs. Atwood has been here, we have put in a substantial amount of money for preventative maintenance and capital improvements in our buildings, because if we don't take care of our buildings every year, the cost to do it down the road is double, triple, and quadruple the price. So we have put money in there every year to do that. And then our contract settlements are also some of the drivers in our budget here. So charter school, I bring that up as an item, and you can see that when you look at the costs and what we paid out, total cost in 22-23 was $4.7 million. 23-24, it went to $5.5 million. 24-25, it went to $8.4 million. And that was with the opening of a new charter school. We've talked about that in the past. I won't reiterate my concerns with that. But those are the increases there. So what's next? The next step is we will build out the tentative budget. It'll have a little more detail about what we are including in the budget, what the budget will be actually proposed, and that will be done on March 18th. So at this time, I will open it up to any board members who have questions. Anybody from the public have a question? Yes, sorry. How many charter schools are in the district? Thrive is in the district, Pace is in the district, and is there another one? In the district, but there's two, but there are about 8 or 9 in the sending area that students can go to. So there are some in the Trenton area, depending on how far away they are. But I believe it's Pace and Thrive are they're the primary in Hamilton. Yep. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, no, we actually read a book about it. It was kind of fun. It was memoir, parrot memoir. It's pretty fun. But
Okay. So we're going to move on to our committee reports. I'm actually going to start with Dr. Ferrara.
Okay.
For curriculum and instruction.
I can do that. Hi, everybody. The C&I committee met on February 19th. Ms. Stanton, President Thornton, and I were present. We spent a good amount of time in conversation with Mr. Scotto and Dr. Rocco about the program of studies for the 3 high schools. And those of you who have high school students likely know that the students are selecting their courses already for next year. If your student hasn't shared the location of the document with you, you can find it on the district website under curriculum, then in the left-hand column, click on high school, and the document will be right there. We have some new courses this year. Entrepreneurship is one of them. And the 3 language courses at the 3rd year level, which were formerly college prep courses, have been elevated to honors. So it'll be French 3 honors, German 3 honors, Italian 3 honors, and Spanish 3 honors. And those language classes are now eligible for college credit through William Patterson. Some half-year courses have become full-year courses. 2 digital media literacy classes will now become a full-year course called Digital Media Literacy Social Media. Harmony 1 and Harmony 2 will now be a full-year course called Harmony. American Law 1 and 2 will become a full-year course called American Law. We have eliminated some courses: Development of Music 1 and 2, Ancient History, Medieval History, Career Exploration, ESL Lab 1 and ESL Lab 2, and Personal Finance will become an online course. Part of the conversation also focused on the numerous dual enrollment programs which Mrs. Thornton just mentioned, which are available to students. And my committee cannot encourage you all enough to look at these options from 6 New Jersey colleges and universities, which will provide your students college credit at a reduced cost. The College of New Jersey will award credit for every AP class the district offers. That's 27. Your student must pass the course with a C or better. AP assemblies are taking place in the district this week. West has already hosted their event, but parents are welcome to attend a session at East tomorrow and at North on Friday. And your student will have been invited to those assemblies. So if they have been invited, you are welcome to attend. Fairleigh Dickinson will award credit to students who successfully complete Introduction to Business, International Business and Economics, and Marketing 1 Essentials. Kane University will award credit for students who take Tomorrow's Teachers. Mercer County Community College allows district English teachers to teach English 101 and 102 in this district for college credit. Thomas Edison State University offers college credit to students taking Materials Processing 1, 2, 3, and 4. And William Patterson provides credit for Spanish 3, Spanish 4, and Advanced Placement Spanish. The curriculum supervisors who oversee these dual enrollment programs are listed on page 16 of the program of studies. So they can tell you the costs and how to enroll and help you take care of things. For board members, motion 6 asks us to approve the program of studies. While students are enrolling in classes, the administration is continuing to tweak block scheduling, which begins this fall. As I noted this past December, block scheduling as a concept is 30 years old. So there are lots of models and experts in New Jersey that have been willing to guide our district. For example, the high school librarians and the curriculum supervisor of the librarians traveled to 2 different high schools to see how their librarian colleagues use the 80-minute blocks. The high school principals will be providing updates, as Dr. Rocco mentioned, via robocalls. Let's see, under policy changes. The committee discussed the removal of 4 policies which did not align with New Jersey's Family Leave Act, which was passed in 2023. So that is motion 4. It's a first reading to eliminate those policies. Motion number 5 is also a first reading of policy 8561. These edits were suggested by Strauss Esme and requested by Ms. Atwood. It basically is just cleaning up the language in the document so that it aligns with, I think, federal codes. Yes, Ms. Atwood? Yeah. And the district finished its CUSAC review this week, and motion 8 asks for the approval of revisions made to 6 curriculum guides that were part of this CUSAC process. And yes, you will see a 3rd grade dance curriculum, and while HTSD does not offer that class, the state requires us to have a dance curriculum. And motion number 9 is just the continuation of decommissioning of math expression textbooks. And that's all.
Thank you, Dr. Ferrara. Do any board members have any questions in regards to Dr. Ferrara's curriculum and instruction report? Mr. Kanka?
No.
Ms. Williams?
No.
Harvey?
Yes. In reviewing the program of studies, was there any discussion as to the number of students who had previously taken those courses that were eliminated?
Yes, my understanding is that Mr. Scotto said the curriculum supervisors did look at those numbers. The medieval history and ancient history were removed from the high school program of studies because that content area is covered in middle school. So yes, he told us that they did look at numbers. It's also one of the reasons that some of these courses, half-year courses, became a full-year course, because they noted that in Harmony 1, the students then took Harmony 2, so they just made it a one-year course, and it aligns better with block scheduling.
Any other questions, Ms. Harvey?
No, thank you.
Ms. Stanton?
No, thank you.
Ms. Soto?
No, thank you.
Dr. McSheen?
Nope, thanks.
Thank you.
Wait, Ms. Williams, do you have a question?
No, I'm going to ask after, because I don't know if I'm just not seeing it, but where is it on here that you were able to see, Ms. Harvey, where the programs of studies that are being eliminated? Because I don't even see it.
If you go to number 6,
Yeah.
and then I think you click on selling. No, so you have to actually go to the content that is in the board library from January 22nd. It has a 1-page summary. In fact, I can pass it down to you. It's right
If you
here.
don't mind, thank you.
And we'll be able to have further
Yeah, let me-
discussion during the
yeah.
agenda.
Okay. I don't want to hold everybody up, but thank you.
Dr. McSheen, you have no questions? Okay, okay. So we can move on to Personnel Committee. Ms. Soto?
Good evening. So the Personnel Committee met last Wednesday at 4:15. I, along with Dr. McSheen, Ms. Williams, Dr. Rocco, and senior staff were in attendance. Dr. Rocco shared a number of updates on many of the items that we already heard about this evening, so I will not go over them again. One thing that was not mentioned regarding personnel, Mr. O'Boyle gave us an update around staff security and a new system they are exploring that will provide basically a point in time when staff come into a building. So, we have many educators that teach in multiple buildings, or administrators will travel for meetings and such. So this will provide an accurate picture of who is actually in the building in the event of an emergency. So more information on that to come. They hope to pilot that this spring in a few of our schools, see how it works. And it will be built into the current swipe system that our staff use to clock in and out of each building. Sorry. Dr. Copeland also shared information on our state mandated comprehensive equity plan, which is motion 16 on the agenda. The development of the 2025 to 2028 comprehensive equity plan began in late January. And this is a plan that's required by the New Jersey Department of Education. A committee consisting of administrative professionals along with board members and parent volunteers has been established. The plan is currently in draft form and is anticipated to be presented to the full board for approval consideration at the March meeting. Interestingly enough, he also shared that he's working on reviewing staff resignations from October through January 2023 to 2024, and the year-to-year review showed a decline in resignations. We went from 18 to 10, and so we're hopeful that with our most recent negotiations that we will see a greater increase in retention. So we are excited for that. We also, with every meeting, we discuss and review current vacancies in the district and Dr. Copeland and his team's recruitment activities. So for the 2025 winter and spring school year, for 2025-26 positions, there are 13 job fairs currently scheduled between now and the end of May. We'll also have a district job fair in August, but that date is still to be determined, excuse me. He did share at the meeting, though, that he has had a number of interviews already lined up with college students set to graduate in May, and a lot of great potential in these candidates. And we were also updated on vacancies by school and subject area. And as of that morning, we had 3 very promising candidates that will hopefully fill our secondary math vacancies. So we're excited for that. And now I will turn it over to Dr. McSheen, who will give our DCR report.
Thank you, Ms. Soto.
Thank you. I have a brief DCR report. So that DCR is the District Community Relations Committee. And this is a report from the committee chair, Ms. Hodges-Jones. Our February meeting was canceled due to the inclement weather. We look forward to our next meeting with Dr. Copeland presenting on the comprehensive equity plan before we break into our subcommittees. This meeting, just to note, that I just discussed, will be on March 18th at 5 o'clock at Steinert. And we will have the Board of Ed budget meeting afterwards at, I believe, at 6:30, correct? So if you want to stop by before the budget meeting, it'd be great. And this is a great time, great place to, air some concerns. If you have some things that you're wondering about the district, some ideas for improvements, this is a great place to talk about it with some like-minded individuals who are looking to improve the district overall. And yeah, so going back to our report, please join us and bring a friend or a colleague with you. Any questions you have, you can email them to dcr@htsdnj.org.
And just to elaborate on the comprehensive equity plan, as Dr. Rocco mentioned in his presentation, by defining equity, this committee, I sit on that one as well. We actually look at what is being offered to all the students across all the schools in the district to see where there are gaps and needs that have to be filled. So that is number 16 on the agenda, and I forgot to mention, but it was mentioned earlier, we of course reviewed the school calendar, so that is number 17 on the agenda for board approval.
Thank you, Ms. Soto. So at this time, do any board members have any questions regarding Ms. Soto and Dr. McSheen's reports? Dr. Ferrara?
No.
Ms. Stanton? No. Ms. Harvey? Ms. Williams? No. Mr. Kanka?
No.
And I'll ask you, Ms. Soto, do you have any questions regarding the DCR report? And Dr. McSheen, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Very thorough, I appreciate that.
Thank you, guys. So if we can, Mr. Kanka, Finance and Operations?
Thank you. On February 12th, 8:30 in the morning, we all met, the committee, myself, Mrs. Thornton, and Mrs. Harvey, along with Dr. Rocco, and the senior staff was in attendance. We started out with some basic communications from Dr. Rocco. He was working on the community updates that would be posted in the near future at that time, and I did see they were posted. Then we moved into the bulk of our meeting was basically talking about the implementation of the facility strategic plan, and we had the initial talk started with the Robinson preschool pre-K edition and the pool conversions. We had Mr. Scott Downey in with some drawings. We had multiple questions on some of the drawings that he presented. Then the district at this time continues to work with the Mercer County Improvement Authority for the implementation of the funding for this project. It appears it's going to be a bond somewhere between 8 and 10 years. And the intent of this is that the Improvement Authority will fund that bond, and that bond will be paid for by a bond that we have right now that's going to be coming due. So there won't be any tax increase to the public for this. Once the bond's paid off, we'll use that money to pay for this bond for this project for the strategic plan. Then Dr. Rocco moved into these macro budget presentations, which we saw tonight, and he went over a lot of the drivers in that, which he also went over tonight. That was a lengthy conversation with him during that time. And we moved on to the food service. There was a policy update on the food service procurement policy. There was some language changes in the policy, which was recommended by Strauss Esme, and we discussed that. It was referencing the federal code citations and a lot of other things in the policy coming from the State Department of Agriculture. Then we moved on. There was a line item for the HEP roof that was discussed about replacement of that roof. It's an ongoing discussion right now because as everybody knows, there's a question with that building, and we're discussing, do we want to put in this type of money in a building that we have so many questions on with the township at this time. But it's a conversation ongoing right now. Then we had some bid openings for some other projects, the roof replacements on all the 3 high schools, which is going to be covered 40% by ROD grant funding, and the local share will come out of the capital reserve funds that we have already budgeted. I do have some good news. The project did come in under budget, so we're pretty excited to see that. And there's also included in that is the electrical upgrades to McGuire School and to Klockner for new electrical panels in those schools. The panels, I believe the panels in the McGuire schools were so old that some of them still had screw-in fuses in there. So that's all going to be taken out and replaced with new up-to-date equipment over the summer. That's part of the summer project. Then Bashios, the food service, submitted for a $5,000 grant on behalf of Hamilton to help support our breakfast program in the district. And We briefly discussed the school calendar and the MTSS presentation by Mrs. Aldino. I did talk to Mrs. Atwood this week about our negative balances on our food service, and there was some positive news there that the negativity is starting to level off a little bit. So we're hoping that we got to a point, and maybe we're going to maybe trend the other way now that we with the negative balance. Right now we're at negative $440,000, in which about $140,000 of that is due to free and reduced applications that were approved after, the balance was already being incurred. So we technically have it's down to about 300,000 on the negative. So we're hoping, and that sort of slowed down the increase. So we're hoping that some of the initiatives that we've started to take are taking hold, and we're looking forward to maybe seeing that number start to trend the other way. Our next meeting is scheduled for March the 12th at 8:30. And that concludes my report on that. If any board members have a question, I can answer them, I will.
Thank you, Mr. Kanka. Ms. Williams, any questions?
No question.
Ms. Harvey? Ms. Stanton? Dr. Ferrara?
Not a question, maybe, and maybe this is after we move the agenda. If you could explain motion 11 and 12 and why we're now putting approval of fundraisers on our agenda so that the public understands.
I think that would be a good conversation to have after we move.
After we
our
move it,
agenda,
that's
if
fine.
That's okay
Yeah,
with you?
fine with me.
Soto?
No question.
Dr. McSheen?
No questions, thank you.
And Ms. Harvey, do you have a report? I know you briefly spoke about the PTA President's Committee report, but I didn't know if you had additional information.
The only additional information is that we spent a large portion of the last meeting going over the facilities strategic plan and answering questions of the PTA so that they had a better understanding of our goals as the district.
Okay, thank you. Moving on,
I do have one other thing. I'm sorry.
Mr. Kanka, do you have anything for negotiations?
Yes, I do.
Sorry.
I have been in contact with the board attorney, the committee members for negotiations, and I also have been in contact with Mr. Frank Ragazzo, the president of the Administrators Association, and we are scheduled to start the initial talks on Monday, March the 3rd at 4:15 in Dr. Rocco's conference room.
Thank you, Mr. Kanka. Okay, moving on to the monthly suspension report. Questions, comments? Monthly HIB report. Questions, comments? Or the monthly health report? Comments? Okay, we will move on to hearing of the public on agenda items. I am being told that we do not have anyone signed up for the first hearing of the public. Is that correct? Okay, so we'll move on to the agenda. Dr. Farrar, can you take us through curriculum and instruction?
Absolutely. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent, I move items 1 through 12.
Second.
Okay, do we have any questions in regards to curriculum and instruction agenda items? I'll start with you, Dr. McSheen.
Yeah, I actually have a few. I'll just walk down the list. So number 4, which is the, excuse me, the list of policies that Dr. Ferrara mentioned we were being proposed to be abolished. Just to clarify, if you look at them, they're about sick leave and family leave. It's not changing anything that we are doing in our district by abolishing them.
No, what it is that these policies were put in place before the changes were made in 2023 from the state. And so that legislation now takes over, and we do have a policy, and I should have looked up the number, I didn't, but yeah,
It's
no.
covered in current policy.
Yes.
So those are redundant and old.
Yes.
Great. Item number 5, the policy 8561. If you give me a second to pull that up, because I have a bunch of tabs. But I believe there was on page 2. Sorry to get nitty gritty here.
I'm going to turf this to Katie, even though you're asking me.
I will formally address it to you, Dr. Farrar. but-
Okay.
On page 3, I was a little confused because it crosses out, it redlines the public/charter schools and then leaves the non-public schools only. And I was confused as to why our policy is addressing non-public schools. Like, what's our role there, but not public/charter schools?
Policy is a general policy, first of all, so it generally addresses how non-public schools don't have to follow the same federal procurement rules as public schools do. But I didn't think it crossed out, it should be adding the public piece. It adds a section, I want to pull it up to make sure that's the way it's reading
Yeah,
on the one
maybe
that's
I'm
up here.
misreading it, but
That's the one that I provided them, so I
What'd you
want
say
to
on
just pull
page
it up.
2?
page 3, the
Page
very
3.
top.
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it crosses out public/charter schools, then leaves purchases to CFR, and then goes into non-public schools only.
Just trying to get, oh, here it is, 5. I'm finally pulling it up. Hold on. I wasn't prepared for pulling it up. You're seeing. Come on. So page 3?
Correct, yeah, page 3. The very first items there.
What it's, the non-public school, I'm not really sure how it's reading like this, but what's new was the fact that it should be adding.
Can you speak closer to the mic,
Appears
please,
to be
Katie?
underlined and red is supposed to be additional stuff. So I'm not sure how, when it got posted, I should have reviewed it one more time. Because that whole purchases, that whole piece of public charter schools is all new.
So it's not
Oh, so
supposed
that
to be
We
should be-
striked
discussed
out.
it in finance. If you look at, that's supposed to be new.
Okay, that's an addition, not
Yeah, that's
strike out
not
from the old.
supposed to
So it's
be
a
crossed
typo,
out.
basically.
Right. So what was only under this provision before would only reference non-public schools. So the change was to add public schools and charter schools.
That makes way more sense.
Yes.
Okay, so, yes.
So,
So do we have to amend this?
I was going to say, should we just pull it till the next
The
meeting?
first read, so you can.
Oh,
amend-
that's
you can
true.
make
It is a
the
first read.
Final on the second.
The one that was shared with the finance committee had the language shown as in addition to.
yeah,
I
it was
believe.
bolded, yes.
It was correct in that version.
Right, but it didn't seem, I see here, once it got posted, that piece got underlined. I think it was just supposed to be red, to show it new, not underlined in red, because that doesn't make really sense. I think the red is new and underlined is cross out.
So I guess I would say, let's just change that, but now I have concerns that it's might have gotten messed up somewhere else throughout the document that I wouldn't have.
Now I'm
understood or
looking at the
noticed.
rest. The rest looks appropriate. Well,
Well, it is a
I'll
first read
take that
though,
back.
too,
I
so.
see another one that's not right. H on should be new. And all of J that's underlined and bolded should be new. So it's fine. I think I'm fine. The reason why I was moving it, just so you know, were a couple reasons. It was recommended, but we're also working with the Department of Agriculture they're here reviewing our procurement processes. So I wanted this to be updated when they were here, but I don't want it to be updated incorrectly. So would it be best just, I see some other ones. It's right in the finance minutes and notes, but it didn't get on here correctly. So why don't we move it? Should we just pull it for the next meeting? Would that be best?
Mr. Carrick?
Or do we reference
Typographical
what
error,
finance
would we be
reviewed?
able to?
Yeah, so a change that's editorial may be followed by the vote to adopt. So it doesn't change the policy substantively. And so where you identified an editorial or typographical error, you can make that change after the read is adopted.
Okay. Thanks for catching that. I saw a different one. I didn't.
Well, I
Do you
thought
want-
I was
I
silly.
can email you the version that
Perfect,
we
that'd be
have
great.
from finance.
Thank you.
I can tell you just generally what changed. So one thing, and you can look at J and just kind of see how it was supposed to change. J on page
Page
on-
5.
oh, it doesn't even have page 5, I guess. I don't see pages on here.
Yeah,
So
page 5.
before, it just referenced 2 CFR 200, which is a very broad procurement code in federal. And this one, it still references, but then it added what that code had included in it. And that was the difference, though it was a clarification of not just referencing the code, but also highlighting pieces of it. That's why they're not supposed to be crossed out. That was an
So those
addition.
sub numbers should also be additions?
Those
too?
were additions.
Okay, because I thought then there was something about an appendix, I believe?
Yeah, that's taken out. And I don't know if it shows it being taken out, but the appendix should be taken,
Okay.
removed, because that was the recommendation. The appendix, instead, they replaced it with referencing a form that had the same appendix information, but this way it allowed the Department of Agriculture, because they frequently change the information in there, and then if it just referenced the form, it would be our policy would always be up to date. That's why they recommended that. So generally, the changes really were code clarifications by putting it in or taking out that appendix and referencing the agricultural form instead. So when the form changed, our code wasn't outdated, our policy wasn't outdated right away. Substantively, these changes weren't that broad, and I have to admit, looking at them, they look broader. So, but we did discuss it in finance, and we had the correct version that we saw before.
So then in section C, small purchase procedures, where it says C appendix, that shouldn't be there. Is that what you're
Should be
telling me?
crossing out appendix and instead referencing
Yeah,
form,
but-
something, something, something.
Right, so if you look under small purchase procedures, C appendix is underlined and crossed out as state agency form 358. So
The
the
other way.
form is supposed to change, okay.
And that's page
If
9.
you check your email, you have it.
You said it, okay, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I'll trust that we'll get this ready for the next month, so I'm fine with that. Okay, I've got more, sorry. Okay, item number 10, the gift donations. I just had a question. Do coupons have monetary value that we have to?
Technically, they do.
Okay.
So, yes, so, and you're talking about the item from the restaurant, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've done that before. So they basically provide one per student, and there is a monetary value for that of a child's meal.
Okay.
So they provided gift certificates for every child in the district? Oh, a coupon, okay, got it.
That's a interesting ethical, does it have value if it's never redeemed?
No. If it's never redeemed, there's no value to it.
So it's a potential value.
There's a
Potential value. Potential value, okay.
If everyone was redeemed.
Yes, that's what it would come out to. Okay, and then the last ones are item number 11, which is the recess instructional programs. So is it basically like when all the students go out to recess, they will be instructed by these few instructors from the YMCA for?
Yes, it's a program that we've done at these schools before in the past. So the YMCA will provide staff that will be out there with the students, assisting with games and activities and working with them on the 6 different items that are listed there as they work together. it's kind of like teaching kids how to play together, make decisions together, how to problem solve together outside versus not being able to do those things.
No, that's really cool. I like that a lot. And the second question I have on that is just more maybe a formality, but the way that the costs are listed between the two different programs is different depending on, one school has 6 weeks and 2 days each week, and so there's just like a set cost there. But I think it's green. No, it's Layler.
Taylor
Yeah. Why is there like a difference there?
There's 8-week program, the number of days, how many periods are being done, and the number of students that are estimated to be part of that process. So that's how they work out the calculation in that chart that's down below on page, oh, it's only page 1, sorry. And I believe it's the length of the program that is the difference. Let me see, go back.
Like what dictates?
Let me go back
on
and
school
see.
request. Okay.
Often it's the quote that the principal has received, and because they're using Title I funds, we also like to spread it upon the agenda for approval.
Got it. So those are like the possibilities.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you for indulging me. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, Dr. McShane?
That is all.
Ms. Soto?
Oh, thank you.
Dr. Ferrara?
No.
Ms. Stanton?
No questions, but if I could go over our gift donations now and thank the community for those. From the gift card bank, the HTSD Administrative Building was given Acme gift cards for the Nourishing Neighbors at a value of $3,000. Texas Roadhouse gave the Hamilton School District Valentine's Day food coupons at the potential value of $104,816. Tony NAMI and the prior NAMI Business Systems gave the Hamilton Township School District Camp 2 travel camp scholarships at the value of $700. The Mercerville PTA gave the Mercerville Elementary School some funds to offset the cost of student field trips at a value of $6,000. Dr. Adam Redlick, family, friends, staff, patients, and the practice of A+ athletics sports medicine gave the Student Services and Programs Department classroom supplies for Cooser, classroom supplies for Crockett, and clothing for district families in need at a value of $2,000. We had an anonymous donation for Student Services and Programs for clothing and shoes at a value of $2,500. And we had a donor's choice donation for University Heights Elementary School for sensory materials at a value of $924. So I would like to thank all of our donators for this month's contributions.
Thank you, Ms. Stanton. Ms. Harvey?
I just wanted to discuss motion 6, which is the program of studies. I'm not sure that I agree with the recommended changes. It's proposed that we are going to eliminate 4 courses and have 1 required course to be taught online, except if you have a disability. So the cuts: development of music 1 and 2, ancient history, medieval history, career exploration, and ESL lab 1 and 2. I understand the cuts for the music program are due to low enrollment, and that makes sense. But the cuts for the ESL lab also have a basis as the MTSS program has replaced the need for that course. So that makes sense. However, I don't understand cutting the ancient history, medieval history, and career exploration classes. When I asked my daughter for her thoughts on whether or not we should be cutting these classes, she responded, "Mom, isn't it true that those who don't learn from the past will repeat it?" I had no idea that this 11-year-old would even know that, but she did. And so I asked this board, is this really what we should be doing? I understand the reason we want to cut classes has to do with the standards that NJSLS sets for the high school, and they're not met for the current courses as we have them. But those courses are really popular. And it's very important to learn ancient and medieval history. I would imagine that we can update these classes. It doesn't matter that it was covered in 7th and 8th grade. I know I, for one, wouldn't be relying upon my 7th and 8th grade education because you grow as a person. So a 9th, 11th, 10th, 12th grader is going to have a different experience with this curriculum, even if it's the exact same curriculum, because as their horizons expand, they're going to have a better understanding. Next, the career exploration class shouldn't be cut. Not only is that also a very popular class, but it provides necessary skills so that our students can learn how to interview, create meaningful resumes, and develop a path for their future careers. I understand that part of a goal is to have that what's called study hall on the block scheduling will cover some of this enrichment. But having a class like that is very important for someone who might not have any idea what they want to do with their future career. And replacing it with a class of entrepreneurship is not the same thing. It's like replacing art with music. They're just not the same. Finally, I also have concerns with teaching financial literacy via an online service. I asked more questions about how that would happen to be. Is it a tutorial where you're in a classroom and there's a teacher that's remotely teaching? No. It's a system where you just log in at your own, but you're never actually engaging with the teacher, you're engaging with the computer. I also asked about the cost to the district, and I was not given any details because they haven't selected a vendor yet. But we're being asked to approve going to this system without any of the details. There's nothing definitive except that it would be a class a student does entirely on their own. I would urge the district not to move forward with this for a mandatory course. I would share with the district my own case involving a lawyer, Dion Wade. Dion was a lawyer helping the poor in Passaic County. If you couldn't pay her, it was fine. She would barter for her services. You'd cook her a meal. She would help you with your parking ticket. She helped the poor no matter what. She received award after award for her pro bono commitment. And she wanted to give back because she grew up on the streets of Newark and Patterson, no father. Her mother was a drug addict. Her brother was a drug dealer. She had no one to look to. And her education, it took her 12 years to put herself through law school, working at night at Macy's in a program that should have taken at most 4 years because she couldn't pay all the time. So she just took classes as she could. Unfortunately, because she grew up on the streets, no one taught her what our mandatory course would teach, which is the simple skills to balance a checkbook. How to do this simple task. That was not so simple for her. But unfortunately, as a lawyer, it had to be simple for her. We have our ethical obligations. Unfortunately, her lack of knowledge meant she commingled her own law firm funds with her client funds, and it led to her being what's known as out of trust with monies. Unfortunately, she lost her license. All of those poor people who relied upon her, who she actually helped give them a legal service that they could afford, no longer have Dion Wade to help her. What she worked for 12 years was suddenly gone. We as a district strive to provide our students with a quality education, and that includes these simple life skills of finances. Let's not do them the same disservice that Dion had from her education. I don't want our kids to just click on a box to learn these really important skills. They should have a teacher to teach them these things that will get them through their life. And I understand that students have already begun selecting classes for next year, but I'm asking that there be some sort of changes so that we are doing a better service to our students, including an ancient history class, a medieval history class, and the option to take a live financial literacy class with a live instructor, not just on a computer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Normally, I would go to Ms. Williams, but I'm actually going to comment on this because I do have some of the same concerns that you have regarding removing some of the classes. Having students that have recently graduated from our district, as well as a student that is currently still in our district at the high school level. Some of these classes are very important. I'm going to use career explorations as a class that I personally feel is a benefit for all students, whether you're going into the workforce, whether you're going into the trades, whether you're going into college, or whether you're looking to perhaps maybe get a job during the time that you are still in high school. It was always a wonderful class and a good experience that my children have, and I just am concerned to see it potentially leave our curriculum and our students not having the opportunity. So I have to agree with you on that. I do have some concerns with the digital program as well. I think it should be an option as opposed to if a student would like to take it, or as opposed to if a student would still like to take it in person. Again, medieval and ancient history are also very popular classes. I'd love to be able to see the curriculum change and have different standards if that is the concern, or different context subject. But again, I'm not a fan of removing classes from our curriculum unless, of course, a student population is not taking the classes. If you're seeing year after year that the students aren't taking the classes or trying to register for the classes, then I do understand removing it. But I don't understand removing classes that are currently popular or being taken. So I have to agree with you, Ms. Harvey, and I would like to see us not take those classes out of the program of studies. And I will move on to Ms. Williams if you have any questions or comments.
Thank you. I do, and I just have to echo the concerns of Ms. Thornton and Ms. Harvey, only because specifically, particularly on career exploration, my children have personally taken those, and I know that it doesn't just benefit my children, but it benefits all of the children who take that class, because I see the benefits and I'll be an example. It exudes, it teaches, it has taught my boys confidence, okay? So it teaches them not only about resume or interviewing, but at a stage in their life in high school when they're, trying to figure things out. This gave them an option, and the teachers that they've had teaching them this class for career exploration taught them. I just have to use an example. Like I have, my boys, not all the time do they make eye contact with certain people, but it teaches them making eye contact, the interviewing process, feeling comfortable, not feeling uncomfortable, answering certain questions. And it just prepares them at a different level than what they're used to. And it's almost like it's real life, like they're learning it like in the classroom instead of graduating, going into the real world and trying to figure it out. So I just think that, particularly for career exploration, I hope that we reconsider that, because I really do think that it makes more of a benefit and more of an impact than if we were to remove it. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Kanka?
Thank you. I do have some concerns. I had some concerns about this policy, but not to the extent that Mrs. Harvey brought up or Mrs. Thornton. I reviewed part of the policy for the I'm sorry, not policy, but the high school program of studies, and I had some questions that I need to get answered, and now I know some of the questions I will be answering. I did review part of this program of studies, and that's my fault that I didn't review the whole thing and come to the administration and bring forth my questions. But I am concerned about some of the comments that are made tonight on some of the courses that are being removed. I think we probably should have had more of a conversation, in our committee. If it was brought up, I don't remember, because we've been so focused on strategic the facility plan and what's going on in the district with all of our schools and stuff like that. So I just wanted to say I'm a little concerned about this whole program of studies, and I don't think I'm going to be able to support this tonight until I get more information on this of questions. I'll put a list of questions together, and maybe I can get some more positive answers to what we're all concerned about tonight.
So I have a question for Mr. Carrick. I'm sorry. Mr. Carrick, how much authority do we have as a board over the programs of study?
You annually approve the course of studies.
That's literally what we either approve it or not approve it.
Generally, yes. Yeah, it's usually a motion that is on a board agenda, and then you approve it or.
So if we don't approve it and students are already selecting courses, where does that leave the administration?
You're going to have to deal with the fact that it's possible that they will select courses on a stale course of studies, but if there are some in that are subject to change, it might be wise to alert the students that they may or may not exist next year, so to be cautious about selecting those courses of studies.
Yes, Mr. Kanka.
I mean, if we can get some more clarification on some of this stuff, on some of these courses, or I can get more clarification. We do have a meeting coming up in a couple weeks. Maybe we can move this item to I know it's a budget only, but maybe we can make this an action item on that, the March the 18th. And it would just put us about 3 weeks behind. And I'll make every effort to get answers that I need too. It's just a suggestion.
Are you making a motion to table?
I could do that.
So I just need to ask, because the program of studies is posted and it is what we're working off of. So realistically, we're scheduling classes. The only difference would be if we decided, or the administration decided to add the classes, then the students would have to change schedules to be able to add, because right now, these classes are not offered to them.
But
Can I make perhaps a friendly amendment to already pending motion 6, since your motion was never seconded? So I would make a friendly motion to approve the course of studies in the motion, but to not include the removal of the classes, which would mean they could still be offered in the future. They're not currently being offered, but it would at least not have them eliminated from the program of studies. Would that be sufficient, Mr. Carrick?
Yes, I mean, in this sense, obviously, if you have 100 courses that are in there, but you have budget constraints and staffing restrictions and limitations and can only, staff 95 of them, then you're offering 95 in actuality. So if you don't have the courses in the course of study, then you're basically saying to the students, we're not offering those anymore, period. So, it can work that way.
You're still not offering the classes. Dr. McSheen?
I like the spirit of the idea, but I worry that it causes more complications if a student is, let's say, signing up for Class A, but then Class A is not going to be offered, and they really would have loved to be in Class B, and it's closed out now, and then just creates more challenge. I don't know if that's like, I want to be able to do this in a smart way since scheduling is already happening, and I don't know how we.
Can I
Yeah.
respond to that
Go ahead, Ms. Harvey.
My thought process is that perhaps if it's approved the way that I'm suggesting, that in the event there are enough students who say, I don't want to do whatever course is offered instead, I don't want to do entrepreneurship, I want to do career exploration. And because we haven't removed it, perhaps in the scheduling process, the administration would listen to them and add a section for them. So that is what I'm thinking would be the proposal, and that leave it in the students' hands to come forward and say they want to continue a class.
Ms. Soto?
So just the other side of the coin, because I am part of the personnel committee, this did come up in regards to staffing. And, you know, being a parent, I mean, I don't want to see any courses eliminated, but my kids actually took personal finance their freshman year, and it did nothing for them because it was too soon. It was positioned as, you have to take this to graduate, so take it now. But they weren't ready for it. And so it really did them a disservice when it probably should have been offered later. So I don't know, I mean, if Mr. Scotto or Dr. Rocco, we had the discussion about, you know, if we don't do personal finance, that frees up somebody to teach a math class. So it became about positioning and prioritizing classes that the students need and the teachers that we need to make sure that they get the education that they need to fulfill their requirements.
So I just have a comment to that, is that I'm really upset that Mr. Kank and I both have the same experience, that we received nothing about this in finance, and yet those are issues that should have come to our committee and just be shared with us. That if there's a staffing issue for like lack of teachers for financial literacy, then that's an issue that the finance committee should be considering.
Well, it's not so much it's a teacher for financial literacy, but that teacher can then teach another class.
I understand that. But, and I also think, to your point about your own children's experience, it is my concern that by having this online vendor just to meet this requirement that the state has, you're just gonna sit there and click a button. You're gonna pay attention to what the little question is, and then it prompts you for, oh, did you get this right because you were paying attention? And you get it wrong, and then you get an opportunity to take it again because it's just a computer screen. So that's my concern, that if you don't have a teacher teaching these really important skills, and you're putting it way too soon for the person to have that understanding, then they're not going to learn. And I don't want our system to be failing our students. So what you said is exactly my concern.
Well, I guess my point was, if we were to keep it, it still needs, there's another layer to it. Like, that's step one, but then we have to look at when it's appropriate to offer this class to a student. And so maybe it's not even offered to freshmen, it's just offered senior year. And then at that point, it's more of an elective, or, you know.
So one of the things we did discuss in committee was this placeholder that we're calling a study hall after. So in the block schedule, there's a lunch period. Half the kids will go to lunch, and then there's the other half of the kids will either be in clubs or other activities. And one of the things we talked about was what I call mini courses, so that you could have somebody instructing, you know, personal finance in that other half of the lunch block for, I don't know, 10 weeks, say, whatever. So, I mean, there are ways to fit it in. I understand. I think because we were so focused on strategic planning that the curriculum discussion and the program of studies got left by the wayside, because my committee did not discuss it last month either. We discussed it this month, and the program of studies had already been posted. So I share all your concerns. I understand, you know, what you're talking about. My other concern, though, and this goes back to Mr. Carrig, is where's the line between board responsibility and overstepping our bounds in terms of running the district, telling the superintendent what to do?
curriculum adoption is a board action. It does come upon the recommendation of the superintendent. The superintendent then implements the curriculum that's adopted by the board. So there's an interworking relationship with regard to curriculum.
But if we make a motion returning those classes, is that part of our ability, our responsibility / ability? If we alter the program of studies by a vote, can we do that?
I mean, you can choose not to approve this motion.
And then send it back to the
At
superintendent?
that point, the discussion between you and administration is what will go on after that, what that means.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kanka.
I think it's like any motion that's on this agenda. If the superintendent brings it forward and we don't support it, it's going to go back to the administration anyway to be looked at again. It just doesn't have to be this one particular one. I don't think we're overstepping our bounds or telling the administration what to do. I think that we're just saying that we need more answers and we need more clarification on what you're trying to do there and why you're doing it, and let them, rework the whole process and bring it back to us again, just like anything else.
Ms. Williams?
I just want to say that as long as we have more information and we're able to talk about this a little bit more, I mean, the career exploration one is the one obviously that I would like to understand more about why we removed it. And then if we already implemented a new course of studies that's already being, offered, and the students are already signing up and we didn't even have a chance to really talk about this yet. I mean, I would have hoped that we would have been able to talk about this first before that, because now it sounds like if we do want to change anything, it's going to be cleanup, and I don't want to, have that happen either. But I just would like to maybe explore and have this conversation a little bit more afterwards to understand more where we were going with the career exploration and what the thinking was behind that, and to see if maybe we can do something to try to get it back, or if we're saying that the entrepreneurship class is something that would be similar to career exploration. I don't know. I mean, that's something we didn't even have an opportunity to discuss, so.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Soto?
So, in the spirit of what Ms. Harvey was saying with the friendly motion, can we do that? I mean, since the students are registering now, can we do it to sort of table it for the year? Have this discussion to see if they're put back in next year? Or, I mean, is that too complicated? But just so we continue to move forward, but then continue to review?
I have something.
Yeah, you can table it. I mean, it can be brought up at a future board meeting. You brought up the next board meeting or whenever, but obviously these are things you have to discuss with the administration.
Yes, Mr. Kanka.
I think if there's other alternatives to this, I think it would be a good thing. I got to go back to when, it's been a while since I've been in high school, but there was times that, courses were made available, and then after you signed up for them, you were told by your guidance counselor that, gee, only 3 people signed up. We can't sustain that with 3 people. You're going to have to choose something else. So that's how it worked in the past. I don't know how it works now. So if that alternative is available, if the courses are still available, and you have 22 students sign up, I don't see where the necessity is to eliminate it. If nobody signed up, then I understand. But you can't have a course with three students in it, and you have a teacher teaching that. So if it's removed because of lack of interest, that's one thing. But if it's not, then that's another.
So being that we have multiple questions and need more additional clarification on this, would anyone like to make a motion? I would like to table this for next month's board meeting. If
So
not,
moved.
second.
Right, just to
Can I have
clarify,
a
we
vote
have
on
two,
just tabling number 6?
we have two motions on the table that have never been seconded. So are they off the table and we're putting a third motion on?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they never got a second, so
Yeah,
they
so
just
both
die.
of those are off, so
Right.
this is a new motion.
Yes.
It's like the first one, though, but it's a new one. And the new motion is to table number 6?
I have a roll call
And that's
on
by,
that, please?
by
Yes.
Ms. Thornton? And do we have a second?
Yes, Ms. Soto and Ms. Stanton.
We have a second and a third.
Double second.
Roll call? Dr. Farrar?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Kanka?
Yes.
Dr. McSheen?
Yes.
Ms. Soto?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Thornton?
Yes.
Motion's tabled.
Ms. Atwood, can you take us through roll call on agenda items for curriculum and instruction 1
1 through 5, 7 through
7
12.
12?
Yeah.
Dr. Farrar?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Kanka?
Yes.
Dr. McSheen?
Yes.
Ms. Soto?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Thornton?
I need to abstain on number 11, yes on all others.
Motion's passed.
Mr. Kanka, can you take us through finance and operations?
Upon recommendation of the superintendent, I move finance and operation motions 1 through 17.
Second.
Any questions on finance and operation? Ms. Williams?
No.
Ms. Harvey?
No.
Ms. Stanton?
No.
Dr. Ferrara?
Yes. So now can we just, for the public, explain 11 and 12, the motions, why we're now doing, putting these on the agenda for permission from the board to fundraise in the district?
Well, first, it's actually probably 3 motions that if you want to talk about this in general, 17 also is
Can
similar.
you speak a little closer to your
Oh,
mic,
sorry.
Katie? I'm sorry.
I think we should also talk about motion 17 too, because they're all similar. So it all follows board policy, which I did have up. Here, I don't have it up anymore, but there's a board policy on student fundraising that says that if a fundraiser includes for an organization or entity not involved in the school district, the board has to approve it. And the only ones that have come to us, unfortunately, are usually not good events that have occurred that the school has now then chosen to fundraise for. And in all 3 cases, these were 2 were deaths in the school and 1 was a fire. So number 12 has already been on once, which was to approve the actual fundraiser. This is now to accept and distribute the donations for that fundraiser, because at the time we approved it, we did not know the amount that they had collected. Number 11 is a fundraiser that's ongoing due to what I just described. And number 17 is a fundraiser for a similar unfortunate circumstance, but they had already collected the money. So 17 motion has both approval and collection. So why it's coming on after the fundraiser starts, because that's just, I think, the way human nature is. People want to start raising money when really sad things occur. And the schools start it, and by the board policy, you're supposed to approve it. So that's where we are with those 3 motions. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Atwood. Ms. Soto?
Just to follow up with that, Ms. Atwood, in the event something were to happen like this again, would it make sense for a school to then work with the PTA, for the PTA to actually do the collection, so then it's
That's certainly an option.
not a
that
district?
I don't believe PTAs are
For an
able
individual
to
or,
do
yeah.
that, so
Mhm.
that might be something to look at. Dr. McSheen?
no, but this does raise something related to the previous motion that I have a question on, so, but no questions now.
No questions? Okay, Ms. Atwood, roll call.
Dr. Farrar?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
I am abstaining on finance number 9, bill list, page 62, purchase order 2503940, and yes to the rest.
Mr. Kanka?
Yes.
Dr. McSheen?
Yes.
Ms. Soto?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
I have to abstain from number 11 and yes to the rest.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Thornton?
Yes.
Motion's pass.
Ms. Soto, can you take us through personnel?
Sure. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, I move personnel items 1 through 17.
Second.
Do we have any questions in regards to personnel items 1 through 17? Dr. McSheen?
No.
Ms. Soto?
No.
Dr. Ferrara?
None.
Ms. Stanton?
No.
Ms. Harvey? Ms. Williams?
No.
Mr. Kanka?
No.
I would like to recognize our retirements that we have on the agenda for this evening. We do have 12. It's my least favorite time of the year, but I'm very happy for them. And we have quite a few individuals here that have dedicated a lot of years to Hamilton, and I want to thank them for that. So, educational assistant at Nottingham High School, 27 years service to Hamilton, Joanne Bogdan. Teacher of English at Steinert, 40 years service to Hamilton, Christopher Holcomb. Speech language specialist at Morgan Elementary School, 9 years service to Hamilton, Nancy Mendonca. Educational assistant at Hamilton High School West, 21 years service to Hamilton, Catherine Maringer. Elementary education teacher at Kistart Elementary School, 29 years service to Hamilton, Susan Nielsen. A clerical educational assistant at Steinert, 11 years service to Hamilton, Christine Paternostro. A secretary in our facilities department, 36 years service to Hamilton, Anna Portella. An educational assistant at Steinert, 20 years service to Hamilton, Susan Zucchetti. Elementary teacher at Robinson Elementary School, 21 years service to Hamilton, Janet Norton. A school nurse at Sunnybray Elementary School, 21 years service to Hamilton, Joanne Moriello. Educational assistant at Layler Elementary School, 25 years service to Hamilton, Robin Lebo. And an educational assistant at the Hamilton Education Program, 19 years service to Hamilton, Philip Mishner. Thank you so much for your many, many years of dedicated service to Hamilton, and thank you, and we wish you all the best in your retirement. Roll call, please.
Dr. Farrar?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
I need to abstain on personnel 6B, line 4, yes to the rest.
Mr. Kanka?
Yes.
Dr. McSheen?
Yes.
Ms. Soto?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Thornton?
Yes.
Motion's passed.
Now we move on to other business. Do I have any items of other business that any board members would like to address? Ms. Williams?
No.
Ms. Harvey?
I would like to give a special update to Mrs. Glonick because my daughter came home from middle school and was very excited that they had a lesson on cursive writing. So I would just like to update you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Ms. Stanton?
No, thank you.
Dr. Ferrara?
Well, let me dovetail with Ms. Harvey, because I had to read a deed from 1845 that was in cursive, and I read and write cursive, and I had a really hard time. So it's a double-edged sword.
Ms. Soto?
No. Thank you.
Dr. McSheen?
Yeah, so, and this is a long meeting. I don't want to make it super long or anything, but I'm going to put it on the radar. I think the gifts and donations we accepted, there was the item about the coupon. And then we had our discussion where we were looking at the fundraising and stuff. And so it kind of ended up coming across a policy for corporate sponsorships. And I think I want to look at that a little bit more before I talk about it more, because I think I personally think that having a coupon be worth something, if we're saying it's worth something, that drives, and first of all, I want to preface this, I'm appreciative of the donation, and I think it's helpful, and it's good for the community, all that stuff. But just being very careful in the way we accept donations, if it's a pure donation or if it's a driver to a business, which I'm okay with, but just kind of understanding that it's not a pure donation at that point, right? There's an expectation for essentially a family or a group of kids to go to a restaurant or whoever and use that coupon, right? So I will probably, I have to take this back home and kind of think about it a little more just to have a better conversation, but just kind of throwing it out
Dr.
there.
McSheen, if you take a look at the policy and there have any questions.
And I'll say it's policy 6162.
And at the next meeting, you do feel that that's something that needs to be reviewed, by all means, bring it up under other business and we can send it to curriculum instruction and they can review it along with Mr. Carrig for a legal opinion.
Wonderful, thank you.
Can I just address it right now? Because I think it might clear up some, I work with donations all day. And so technically it's an in-kind donation because they're giving us a piece of paper. We recognize it as an in-kind donation. They recognize the value on their taxes. So it's up to them to deal with their auditors and their business folks in terms of the actual valuation of it. We're saying, yes, it could be worth this much, but we don't really, we recognize it as an in-kind gift and not really for the value.
I think though what you're trying to say too, though, is that the coupon is maybe going to be presented to a student, right, in our district or what have you. I don't know, but then we're going to go to that place of business and maybe spend more money, right? Because we're
Yeah,
going to buy
I
more
mean-
than just whatever that coupon is worth.
And I'm not knocking the process or anything, I'm appreciative of it.
Right, of course.
But in my mind, it's essentially just an advertisement
Right.
at a certain level.
It's almost, it's not like a normal donation where
Yeah.
somebody gave you a donation, here, do what you will with it. It's a coupon to go to their place of business and maybe potentially spend more money.
And,
Yeah, so I just want to think it out a bit more.
Dr. McSheen, also to clarify, because my son had received one, he's also gotten them through camps. They're given often, right? Just to clarify for everyone, it's a coupon for a free children's meal, but you do have to buy an adult meal with it. So it is a mandatory purchase with the, as Ms. Soto said, give donation in kind.
So, go ahead. I was just going to say, Strauss Esme sent a pile of policies back, but I have known that the corporate policy and the donation policy, for a long time, we've talked about, since we redid the floors in the gym and redid the fields, that we wanted to talk about those things. And I think this is another piece of it, because I agree with you. We shouldn't allow students to be like an easy target for advertising, and let's face it, it doesn't cost Texas Road anything other than to print the coupons. They could put it in those envelopes that we get in the mailbox all the time with a pile of coupons in it. That costs money, but this is just, here, we hand them to you and then we distribute them to students, right? So there's no cost for them there. So I agree with you. I think we need to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you redeem it, there's a cost. to
And
it,
if
you're
there's
right.
like another condition of having to spend money, then, I start to get a little uncomfortable, but, we can have this discussion later.
And I thank you for bringing that up. And as I said, take a look at the policy and we can absolutely forward that to the curriculum instruction to review it with legal counsel as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Kanka, is there anything that you have under other business?
No.
All right. So at this time, we're going to move on to hearing of the public on school-related matters. I do have 3 individuals that are signed up for hearing of the public on school-related matters. I will be calling you up individually. You do have 4 minutes to come up, and I thank you because I know that you have been here, and this has been a very long meeting, so I thank you for being patient. Michael Ulkrin, am I saying that correctly? Ukrin, sorry. Thank you. Please, up to the microphone.
All right. So, members of the board and administration, I'm here today just to give you guys some feedback on behalf of a group of parents regarding the strategic plan that was presented last month. I'm a lifelong resident of Hamilton. I went to Hamilton schools. I currently live in Hamilton, obviously. I teach at a Hamilton school. And most importantly, I'm a parent to twins at a Hamilton school. And so I'm here tonight on behalf of this group of parents to encourage the board to focus on the many items in the strategic plan which are positive for our families and disregard the portion that is kind of full of negatives, and that being the grade level plan. I want to commend the committee for their efforts on many items of this plan. Things like the air conditioning in our schools, preschool facilities, the pool spaces, separate spaces for lunch and for arts, those are all really positive. They only have positive impacts on our students and will have overwhelmingly positive effects for them. But that's what really we, with the parent group that I speak with, feel you should focus on accomplishing and disregard the grade level portion. In particular, the plan laid out having the entire district attend Crockett, this school, for grades 7 and 8. And this is particularly concerning to us. This comes with huge challenges and does a major disservice for our students. For one, how would you logistically bring students from every corner of the 9th largest district in the state to one school at one time? Not to mention that this is not a centrally located school in our district. It takes over 15 minutes to get to this school from the different corners of Hamilton, excluding traffic. You would need at least every single bus in the district to make this happen, probably more. And then you also have to consider now you have 3 other dismissal times that you have to manage as well. More importantly, however, is the negative impacts this would have on our students. Looking at the numbers, this would over double the population at Crockett. Currently, there are around 860 students here at Crockett. This would put it over 1,700 at this location. Consider the message that you're sending to our students with this plan. You're making the kids just a number. Let's say your student likes acting. At the secondary school where I work, if there's an 8th grader who wants to be in the school play as one of 300 8th graders, there's a role for them, right? Now consider they're in a group of 900 8th graders, right? That their chances of getting that role have gone down a lot. And apply that same idea to student council, to extracurriculars, to sports. You're making our kids just a number by doing this. So, you know, and even you think of like a rite of passage, the 8th grade social, right? There's not a building in this district that can hold 900 kids at one time, right? So finally, we're concerned with the disruption this would have on the learning of our students to have them go to 3 different schools in a 4-year period. I know Dr. Ferrara quickly disregarded my concerns on social media. However, structure is key in having our students learn. We learned that through COVID. And I know that this may not have been what you did, Dr. Ferrara. However, this plan would call for our students to go to 3 schools in 4 years. They would go from 17 elementary schools to 2 intermediate schools, then to 1 middle school, and then back out to 3 high schools. So I'm just not sure how logical that really is if you think about what's best for our students. So again, I don't want to downplay, I know I'm running low on time, I don't want to downplay the great work of the committee. I know they worked hard and there's a lot of really positive things in there. I will say this on behalf of our group is something that we will be asking the board about in upcoming elections, and it will be very critical to our votes moving forward. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anthony Sperano?
Hi, I realize that this was a long meeting, and thank you for this opportunity. There's a small group of us here tonight. We represent 5 streets that surround Robinson School right now, and there's the proposed pre-K building and structure that's going to be built there. We have some very serious questions, and hopefully you can either answer them for us or direct us how to get these answered. Has there been a traffic study that's been conducted? If so, where can we find a report confirming Hempstead Road can accommodate the influx of cars and basically buses coming from Arena Drive and Coosa Road? Yeah.
So I'm going to let you continue. I can't answer the questions while you're going. but
Okay, I'll answer. Okay, great, thank you.
When you're finished, I'll absolutely either direct you.
All right, great.
Sorry.
Where can we find the proposed construction plan, complete with building elevations as well as the entry and exit points on Hempstead Road? Currently on Hempstead Road, it's a unlaned road having no center dividing line. Are there plans to basically line the road and put a traffic signal there, slowing down traffic? Where is the proposed school schedule posted? With the hours of preschool be the same as the elementary school? Or will they be dealing with multiple rounds of busing, entering and exiting the school at various times? Currently, during the current school year right now, in the morning, there are cars parked on the school side and there are cars parked on the residential side. These basically, with preschool students coming in, will they be driven in and picked up as well as bus in? And does that coincide with the current school drop-off points? Because right now, there's driveways that are being blocked on a regular basis. All right, and that's basically the immediate questions we have right now.
Dr. Norfolk?
If you wouldn't mind sharing your email with Ms. Atwood, and then we can communicate back and forth, and I can begin to provide you some answers.
Okay, we can do that. Thank you. All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice Glonick?
What's your name and email?
Okay. Last meeting, I shared an article I received from one of my former parents, but I forgot to mention what she wrote in the card she gave me, and it said, "We thank the postal employees who got this to you for learning cursive." So I thought that was most nice. And a week after, I got a letter from my girlfriend in Florida, and in it was an article, a huge article, a 2-page article about, guess what? Cursive writing, about trying to read the 300,000 transcripts that were written during the Civil War and stuff like that. So it's starting to take foot in the country that cursive writing is a necessity here. And there's a push now for learning to be able to read cursive so that we can read all these historical documents. Can you imagine if a history class got to decode an article a week, what an impression that would make on them, that they helped to decode this and plus learn more about the history of the United States. What a learning experience that would be. After the last month's meeting, I was told that 5th grade did not have time, did not have an hour to do the cursive writing. So they didn't have that extra hour to work with. So for the spelling tests, then when they do them every week, they print all the words, but then the first 2 or 3 words, they also write in cursive. And when the teacher marks the test, she can correct it then. Or if she wants, when she starts the next week's spelling lesson, she could say, this is how the words should have been written, and do it. That would take all of 40 seconds to show them how to do that. And then also, she could put on the board the sentence written in cursive. And when the kids come in and they're unpacking their stuff and doing that stuff, getting ready set up for the lessons, they can transcribe the written sentence, print it on a piece of paper, and then the teacher can ask, what do you think it says? Or to save time, she could say, this says the teacher is always right, all right? So that way they could see that and then say, how many got it? And that would save time, but they would be practicing reading cursive writing. That would take like 10 minutes, and doing the spelling would take like 40 seconds. So we still should be able to have them practice cursive on the spelling test, just 2 or 3 words, and then the sentence, like I said, when they're unpacking their bags, teacher has paper, they're okay, write your sentence, tell me what you think, and then this is how it is, and then we can still practice reading it, because everybody is going to come across cursive sometime in their life, and it'd be great that we prevented them from being embarrassed. And as that guide said to me in Germany, what's the harm in learning something? You never know when you'll use it, and every single person will come across cursive sometime in their lifetime, and they don't need to be embarrassed. They can say, learned it from Hamilton Township Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Clonic. So at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to go into executive session to
So moved.
discuss attorney-client.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, sort of.
Abstain?
Real estate?
Yeah.
I'm not in favor.
Ms. Atwood, roll
maybe.
call.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.
Whereas NJSA 10:4-13 requires adoption of the board to go into executive session, be it resolved that the board pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, New Jersey, Title 18A, and Hamilton Township Board of Education Bylaw Number 0166, hereby enter executive session to discuss a matter involving matters falling under the attorney-client privilege. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this executive session shall be made public following formal action by the board and/or at the conclusion of any investigation,
No,
due
well, I wrote
process,
them down, but
proceeding,
Dr.
or
Roberts-
litigation, so long as not prohibited by law, and so long as the need for maintaining confidentiality no longer exists.
I assume. Or her call. I assume.